Hello. I went and bought my favorite snack from the Asian grocer before I came home because I have had a long day. But you want to see? I just had to quickly cook it before I came on stream. What am I doing? Turning down the music. Hold on. Well, I do like pokey sticks, but no, I got something more reminiscent of dinner or reminiscent of dinner. Remnant of dinner. Wait, is there no music? No, there is. It's just quiet. Wait. I see no music. I swear to God. Every time. Why? Yep. I knew it. It does it all the time. No. Oh, maybe not. There was music. It ended. But it's still going. Did I just turn it down too low? Oh, I did. Cool. Okay, cool. That's just a me thing. Never mind. It's fine. Hey. Hi. Hello, everybody. Oh, happy. Let's go starting with a pack opening. I don't have any packs. I went and I bought tteokbokki. It's cheese tteokbokki. Or yapokki. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's the cheese one. The cheese and onion one, I think. I don't know. But ever since I had that really hot, spicy one the other night, I was like, you know what I want? Again, my favorite one. This one. Joy. Oh my God. It's just so good. It's the right level of spice. Not too spicy, just the right amount of spicy. And I put a little bit of cheese on the top of it. Chad, I had a very emotional day. I'm very emotional, just so everybody knows. How was everybody else's day? Queza, Ven, Jet, welcome on in. Sanguinary, Lekevo, Daniel, Dottie!
Hey guys.
9 months. Thank you so much. Welcome. Daniel, G-Temp, Lekevo, Fox, hello, Shivering. Welcome. Hello everyone. Welcome. Hi. Happy Wednesday. Can't believe it's only Wednesday. This is bringing me so much joy. I saw someone climb out of a window after my job interview today. Interesting. It wasn't out of a window out of the new place of work, right? I was gonna make borgies, as in boigas, even though it's cold outside. Guys, it's cold. I don't know what to tell you. It's cold. It is cold. I am cold. It's cold. No, these are Korean rice cakes. Been watching Therapist reacts to TTPD songs and I'm in tears. Oh no. The temperature here is 11. 11 degrees. It's cold. This is so yummy. I don't want it to be over. Like, I know I'm going to be full, but I don't want it to be over because it's so yummy. I don't know what it is about these chewy little rice cake suckers. I love them. Look, I haven't been in my home. I've got the heater on now though. But yeah, it was pretty bloody cold in my house when I just got home, but I've got the heater on in here. Me and Pixel are in here, so it's not too bad. Guys, I know you think in Australia we don't get cold. It's really cold here. Hi, Tiny. How you feeling? You're going to have ice cream now? Oh my God, wild. Mm-mm. No, we can't really play hockey on a pond. Oh, this is so yum. I don't think water polo is that big here either. I actually felt like a person today at work. You love to hear it. I'm balancing it with kimchi. Look, I'm eating a vegetable slay. Oh, we definitely can't do stuff like that. It's not like a... I don't know how to describe the cold. It's like a dry cold. Whoa, prom. Honestly, I'm just having so much fun with MTG. Like, at the moment as a hobby. Like, I'm just really enjoying it as a hobby. I don't want it to be a career. I don't even know if I'll stream it. It's just a really fun hobby for me at the moment. I forgot that I like card games. Card games got me out of one depression. Who knows? Maybe card games get me out of another one. Do you know what I mean? It's just so much fun. Yeah, it does sound like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but no, Magic the Gathering, my friends. Prom, come to one of the card nights. Bloomberry set coming out soonish. There's going to be some cute AF art. Yeah, oh God, I'm so excited for a little raccoon. The dream. A cute raccoon. My mum actually pulled me a sick card today. Which was very fun and cool and exciting. Yeah, Fortress, I think. Is there elephants? There is elephants. Do it. Yeah, do it. By the way, I do want to say, if you are my stalker and you show up to any of these venues, I'm pretty well known and you will be kicked out on site. Just so you know. Just to make that very clear. So, yeah. God. That was so yum. And now I'm sick of it. Perfect. Done. Don't need to have it again for a while. Delicious. Perfect. But also so much salt. Chat, I've been on the go since 7 o'clock this morning. I have terrible news, sad news, happy news, emotional news. So much happened today. So much happened today. Honestly, when I think about my day today, it's just wild. Maybe keep MTG off stream as purely for you and that enjoyment. Yeah, honestly, I think I might. Like, if I start to enjoy Arena, I might play Arena on stream, but honestly, I just like playing cards with my friends. Good emotional or bad? Good emotional? A bit of both? A bit of both. All right, I need to give you the rundown or you will not have context for my moods this evening. And, yeah. I made my dad open a Lord of the Rings packet of cards last night, and he explained all of the characters to me, even though I knew most of them. He knew, like, some really obscure ones, which was fun. And then I made my mum open a fairy deck today. Hi, Robert. It was really fun. And then I took my dad out to breakfast this morning because my car had to get serviced. So he took me, he picked me up so that I would have a car because I had too much to do. So then I went and printed off photos for my grandma of my holiday because she can't stand looking at phones. So I went to Officeworks and printed off some photos. And then Dad and I went and paid a medical bill. And then we went to my sister's house and I stirred her slow cooker and her food smelled so good. I don't know what she was cooking. I think it was a massaman curry. But fuck, it smelled so good. And then I went and picked up Pixel and dropped her off to get her hair cut. She looks very beautiful now. But I kept her fluffy because it's cold. And then Mum came home from the hospital and I went to the supermarket and I bought her everything she needs for the next week, which honestly was me being very strong. But that was good. And then I went and visited my grandma, which was a lot. My grandma's not really eating, if any of you know what that means. And she gave me her handbag. Her handbag that she's used for the last 40 years. Yeah, she's in care. Yeah. And so then I cried for a very long time. Honestly, it was okay. Like, she gave me her handbag. Do you want to see it? I want to show you. It's so me. It opens like this. Look how cool. It opens like this. Anyway, this is right up my alley for anybody who knows me. Yeah. So my grandma has used this handbag for a very, very long time. So when she made me open the cupboard and she's like, that's for you. And I just looked at her and burst into tears. And I was like, oh my God. And she's like, you've always commented on it. And I'm like, Grandma, I didn't comment on it because I wanted it. I just thought it was so stylish and, it always suited you and I just really liked it and I thought it was cool. And she's like, well, I think it'll be perfect for you too. Which was, again, a lot. And then she kind of shooed me out because she's not eating and her lunch came and she didn't want me to see her not eating, I don't think so. And so then I walked out and I was bawling my eyes out. I couldn't even say bye to the nurses or anything. I was just like V-lining it to the car. So then I cried for 45 minutes, but it was okay. It was kind of like a cathartic, oh, what a beautiful moment, but also trauma kind of thing. And then I went and I sat with my mum a little bit longer and made her a cup of tea and went and got her a sandwich from her favourite bakery. And then I picked up Pixel and then I drove home. And I also got my birthday present off my sisters. I know I look like a monkey, but I got Ugg boots, which are and they're proper Ugg boots. And so then I drove the 2 hours home, which was long, and I stopped and I got food because I was starving, the tteokbokki. And then here I am. Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. Sorry, Catholic hymns on the brain. Never mind. Full on day. Full on day. But it's really beautiful. I know it's not everyone's taste, but it's definitely mine. Anyway. Sorry, kind of hot. Oh my God, you cried over Hermione? Damn, Tiny, you can't read anything else, hey? 2-hour drive was a long drive, but I spoke to my friend while I was driving home and I called my mum again. So yeah, it was a bit of an emotional day, but not in a bad way. Like I feel semi-equipped to handle it. Does that kind of make sense? Well, at least for now. And I had a really yummy breakfast. Like I had a coffee and an egg on toast and baked beans and a piece of halloumi. So, does it have the friction clasp? I'm not sure what kind of clasp this is called. I know it's leather. I know it's vintage. I actually don't know much else about it. I don't know. If anybody could tell me anything about it, you can, but it's just my grandma's bag. I don't really know anything about it. No, so I can't find a tag. No, I don't think it was bought. It would have been bought in like the country. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, it's not a pinch one. No, it's one of these ones. So then when you open it like this, and then it opens this way. Look how clean it is. My grandma used this for 40 years. No, there probably would have been a mask marking on the clasp, but I can't see anything. Oh. Oh no. It says ideal on the pin. Wait. Yeah, it says ideal on the pin. Like it was probably just bought from like a chemist or something. I'm not sure. But I will be looking after it too. Hi, Stinky Leah. Yeah, it says ideal on the pin. So I guess it's from like a... I'm not sure. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not. Like maybe she didn't use it as long. I don't know. Like I think it might just be the type of purse. Hi, Blue. Yeah, it's really cold. It was really hard to get out of bed this morning. No, it's from the 1950s or the 1960s. It's this brand, you guys. This was my grandma's like statement piece. Like this is the brand, I guess. Ideal. But this is it, it's obviously different. But at least I know it's a brand. I think it's from the 1950s, like pattern wise / clasp wise. But I don't really know. Yeah, so I don't think it would be very expensive, but this is absolutely the brand and the style. But like obviously this is different to the style I have. But I would say it's from like here. I don't know. It doesn't really. Like, I would like, sure to know, but it honestly also just doesn't matter. Philosophy chat, and I'm watching eBay. Yeah, Trixie, my grandma is dying, and today she gave me the purse that she'd used for the last 40 years, but I was just explaining that to my chat because stream just started, but go off. $40. Well, actually, probably longer. I think this bag is from the 1950s, 60s. My grandma used that bag for her whole life, yeah. Like, I picture my grandma and I picture her carrying that bag. And today she gave it to me. Because she knows she's not going to use it anymore. So, I think it's older than 40 years. I think it's more like a 60-year-old bag. That is now mine to look after. So, yeah. It was emotional. But I also, no, do you know what? My grandma made me promise to use it. So, like, you know, it's the same thing as I wore her coat today. She made me, this is my descent into tradwifery. She had told all of the nurses when I walked in this morning that I was wearing a coat. And so all the nurses, as I walked in, were like, wow, you look so beautiful in that coat. Your grandma has told us all about it and how you're wearing it and how you look so snazzy. And so that was very funny. But yeah, my grandma doesn't want to eat anymore, so yep. Anyway, I told her I'd go visit her next week. So we'll go week by week and see what happens. Pix is just accessorizing for her future time travel adventure. I really am. Trixie, also don't worry about it. We are doing philosophy tonight. In general, at the moment, like, my overarching philosophical approach is absurdism because this shit is wild. But we're probably going to watch the new Philosophy Tube, which I haven't seen yet. I know some of you have, but I know a lot of you like my reactions and additions. So I think we'll do that tonight. It's okay. My grandma is 89 years old and been through a lot. But, you know, 89 years old is a long time, and her best friend died about 2 weeks ago. And my grandma has outlived almost everyone. So yeah, you know, she still, you know, she still talks. She's right there. Her brain is fully there. So you never know. You never know. She's been in one of these little downward spirals before, and she came out of it and was fine for another 6 months. So, yep. Hi, Dreamweaver. Look, you know, I'm very lucky. I have a good family. Recently, my grandma has been diagnosed with senile dementia and put on meds. Since I'm having a hard time convincing myself to visit her in that state, how do you do it? You do it because I think I would regret not going more than I find it difficult. Um, Trauma in our lives is inevitable, and you can ascribe whatever meaning you want to any choices that you make. Like, it's also fair if you would like to remember your grandma. Otherwise, like if your if your grandma isn't going to remember who you are when you visit, and it's more pain than not, then you can make whatever choice you want. My grandpa had really bad dementia when he passed away, and I didn't get to see him in the home, but that was because of COVID. But he didn't know who I was for years. So I'd just go visit, and we'd sit there. And sometimes he'd think I was my mum. Occasionally he wouldn't know who I was, but he was like, "Ooh, that's a nice ring you've got on there." Or, he'd joke about the football or something. And yeah, I don't know. Like, so many of our human interactions in this life are so incredibly complex, and grief and uh, death and sickness are ones that most people will avoid talking about for a majority of their life, because it's very uncomfortable, because it's not so much that it reminds you how much suffering you have to experience. But it's also, okay, you suffer anyway. I just think, would I want someone to come visit me? And I'm like, yeah. So, not that I don't have children, so I don't know if anybody will come visit me, but like, I would want someone to, so it's like, why not? She, the girl who does autism channel on YouTube? What? You'll send a couple of ghosts? Thanks. If you still stream when you're older, imagine I'm streaming from a nursing home. Subscribe today. That's right, your $5 today invests in my future aged care streams tomorrow. I'm not a psychologist. I have a degree in forensic psychology, but no. I'm not going to be an effective mod when I'm that old. I'm not going to be able to click ban quickly enough. Your nan is resisting aged care at 100? What? How? Overwhelming. That's so funny. Oh, I have to message my mum and tell her I got home. Hold on. Yeah, you got to pass on the wisdom, Tasty. You got to delegate. You're really good at that, right? You got to delegate. You're going to have to move into a more supervisory role. I got invited to go to the House of the Dragon premiere tonight in the city, but I didn't make it back in time either. I would have loved to have gone as well, because I'm pretty excited for that coming out. Because I actually really loved the first season. So that's true. Maybe it'll just be AI. I'm an Aussie, Nicholas. I'm from Victoria in Australia, where it's fucking cold right now. No, you don't have to have seen Got It All to enjoy House of the Dragon. You just have to know it's about the Targaryens. And it's basically about, yeah, it's just about yeah, not really, but it's heavy. Hey, Chris. It's heavy. But like it's, you know, it's a bit like God. It's the same as God, the same sort of heaviness. But House of the Dragon, so far, season 1 was gripping for me. There is a little bit of incest, obviously. You know, but there is dragons. And so, yep. Does it explain how they got their hair? Like, there's lots of stuff. You know, it's good. It's one of those ones where you pay attention and there's some answers, but obviously there's things that you're not going to get unless you read the books. Which I'm not reading the books. I simply fucking refuse until they're all out. I ain't doing it. Matt Smith is amazing in the show. Hey, Brodio. But yeah, I really enjoy it. The acting is superb. But I ain't fucking reading the books until they're all done. That's me. I will commit to Wheel of Time again to read the last 3 books at some point. But right now I'm still reading ACOTAR. So I just wish I had more time to read. Subscribe today so I can retire and read. Wait, that's not really a good incentive, is it? But I'll have so many good stories for you when I come back. Hello, Evan. Stormlight Archive is apparently really good. Daddy! Thank you for making me feel powerful.
Doty_90 gifted a tier 1 sub to Shiny Pants _.
You're my new favorite tatter. 9 months and a gifted sub. Nothing compares to you. You're reading The Expanse? See, I never read The Expanse, but I did watch the show and I loved it. Why would you give up? We're not even halfway through the year yet. You could read more books. You could read more books. Listening to the first Wheel of Time book read by Rosamund Pike is just amazing. See, I'm already I am like 3/4 of the way through the first book for the 3rd time in my life. And I just keep getting like I got side distracted by another book. It's still sitting on my Kindle there ready to go. But you read Dust Capital? Yeah, you need to read something for fun. Guys, I know this feeling, you know, where you feel like you have to read things that make you smarter or, you know, add to your understanding of very important things. But, like, fuck, read for fun. Oh, yes, I have my Lennon books for fun. No, you need to read some fairy porn or something. Read some fairy porn or something. I don't know. Like, seriously, my absurdist take is that you have to be able to balance out the insanity that is the knowledge you have to acquire to understand the world, and then you've got to switch it off sometimes. No, you got to have fun. You can't just doom scroll forever and, you know. I read Del Toro Quest as a kid, all right? I read Del Toro Quest as a kid. Hi, Kate. Did someone say fun reading? Have you read ACOTAR, Kate? You might like Wheel of Time. Oh, you have? So I'm only up to the 3rd book, so no spoilers, but I haven't read Throne of Glass yet either. I really want to read that. Getting there. I know, Bridgerton Part 2 tomorrow. So after I finish stream tomorrow night chat, I'm watching Bridgerton Part 2. And then I'm sleeping in on Friday morning. That's my plan. So tomorrow, I'm getting up early, walking Pixel. Then I've got to get my nails taken off because I don't know if you've seen them, but I've had these on for way too long. These two have fallen off. I know it makes it look Happy Pride, but that's not the reason they fell off. But I've had them on for so long. They're my normal nails, but can you see the gap? They're my normal nails, and they're so long. It's driving me bonkers. The drama of it all. So that's tomorrow morning. But yeah, you get a night stream. You get a night stream tomorrow night. And then when I finish my stream tomorrow, I will be watching Bridgerton. So, yeah. I was going to do like a watch party with some friends, but I think I'd just rather watch it at nighttime. Australians are usually nice enough. I'm a bitch. A giant bitch. I hate you. Go away. I'm not nice. I'm barely good-ish. Especially if you're annoying. And do you know what's annoying? When you're like, Australians are usually nice enough. No, we're not, cunt. I fucking hate you. So, Blue, every season is about a different couple. Do people think Australians are nice? Australians are laid back. If you're chill, we're chill. You know, I would say that Australians are chill. Kind of like, meh, alrighty. Well, let's get this show on the road. You know? Sometimes we're too chill. We're politically apathetic. That's probably one of our biggest problems. So most of the country doesn't give a fuck about politics, and when they do, they vote stupidly. I love romantasy. I live for romantasy. Do you want to know why? Because unless you make your life a little bit fun, it's fucking boring as shit. So you might as well make it fun. You might as well run along a road. You might as well spin fucking just like, I don't know, pretend you're a fairy. Who fucking cares? Have some fun. Dress up. Do things. This is coming from someone who used to be in chronic pain. Just, if you have the energy to be a little bit silly, go, be silly, have fun, live your best life. It's just, it's so good and it's so privileged. Hi, Verdane. My day was a mixed bag. Oh, Yeah, chat. I haven't even told you the shit news. My car needs $3,000 worth of repairs over the next 6 months, and it's just like normal shit. Yeah, it's just like normal. It's like normal shit. I hate this for me so much too. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know how it is. It's fine. It's not even stuff. No, it is the so there's a small leak in the coolant thing that needs to be done. Apparently that's 1,500. I'll get another quote, but and then at the next service that gets done on my car, they have to replace the belt. What's it called? The something belt. The diddly dee belt. The timing belt. Yeah. So they have to replace the timing belt at the next service, which is another 1,500. Yeah. But to be fair, you know, it's not anything I did wrong to the car. It's just wear and tear. And then the windscreen wipers have to be replaced, which is another $180. So not ideal, but it's fine. Yeah, you can't even just replace
Timing
Dottie.
belt replacement fund.
Thank you for the $10. You can't even just replace the thing. You have to replace the whole blade. Yeah. You have to replace the whole blade. You can't just do the thing. It's just different with my car, I think, Vic. I'm so lucky your VW Golf hasn't had issues the past year. That's good. That's good. My mum had a Golf and it was pretty good most of the time, but occasionally a very expensive service. No, I'm not comfortable sharing anything. No, they're just lazy. I had to look into it with mine. Everyone just does the full wiper because it's easier. Well, I don't really trust myself to do it, so I already paid for the wipers. I just put them on the credit card today because they told me, but I haven't paid for the timing belt or the leak because I was like, I'm gonna need a minute. No. So. Oh, that's interesting, Vox. I didn't know that was a thing. Timing belt is must do. Yeah, that's basically what Dad said as well. I'm always so skeptical that I'm being taken advantage of, but I will take like I have a car friend, so I will take the quote to my car friend and see what he says as well. Just no holidays for me. Although I did realize if I wanted to, I have enough points to visit my sister. So even if I can't do anything over the next little while I'm saving for a car, I can maybe use my points and go visit my sister and my nieces because I haven't seen them in ages. So maybe I'll do that. Thought the title said philosophy cats. Philosophical cat. Wait. Philosophy cats and philosophy do. Philosophy cats, philosophy do. You see where I'm going with this, right? And I'm failing, but you saw where I was going. You respect the hustle, right? Like you see the vision. The vision wasn't quite there, but you see the vision, right? Don't judge me, chat. I've had an emotional day. This block of chocolate is not going to last. It is Dairy Milk, Boysenberry Ripple, and my emotions are very fun to just eat. They're not even that bad either. I'm okay, but I need a full tummy and chocolate. Yeah. Oh, yum, blue. Anything strawberry for me. I'm such a strawberry main. I love strawberries on any dessert. And lemon. Hazelnut I do like, but I still like fruit better. Lemon and strawberry cake is probably my peak cake. Like lemon and strawberry sponge cake. Yum. Can't go past strawberries and cream. I follow this gluten-free lemon baker on TikTok, and all she does is bake gluten-free lemon stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is my soul sister here, because I see you. I get it. That is, yep. Oh my God, lemon tart with cream. I love lemon tart. I really do. Like if I'm having a dessert and lemon tart is on the menu, most of the time it's lemon tart or lemon meringue or, oh, lemon pie filling on its own for sure. You made lemon curd in the summer? Yeah. Delicious desserts. This is making me very hungry. There's also this slice my grandma used to make. She's on my mind, as you can probably tell. She made this apple and sour cream slice. I don't know if you guys have ever had it. I know it sounds really weird. But it's like apple sour cream slice, and it's yummy. I don't mind mint chocolate. Apple and sour cream. I know it sounds weird, but it's good. What is slice again? Is it just cake? Yeah, hold on, I'll show you. Yeah, it kind of looks like this. Like, it literally just looks like this. And I know it looks really funny and you're like, hold on a minute. The fuck is that, right? But it is... It's yummy. Also, my grandma used to make jelly slice. This one. I'm sure you've seen this. Anyway, because I've got for dessert, even though I just ate chocolate, for later on when I have a cup of tea, I went and I got an apple slice. It's just regular apple slice, but I got an apple slice from my mum's favorite bakery because I got her a vanilla custard slice and I got me an apple slice because, well, I know that I'm going to want to eat an apple slice later. Yeah, it's a crushed biscuit most of the time rather than a cake. And you don't cook a slice a lot of the time. Slice often just, you sometimes might bake the crumb, but a lot of the time you're just setting it in the fridge. Yeah, a lot of the time you're just setting it in the fridge. So, like, it's different to cake in that cake you often cook it. I don't know what that is, Steezy. What is that? Bake free like a chocolate ripple cake. Yeah, like a chocolate ripple cake. But, I mean, more complicated than a chocolate ripple cake. Yeah, no, because like you bake a cheesecake. I mean, some cheesecakes are baked, right? Yeah, I guess because in Australia, I mean, cooler cakes out of the fridge were probably desirable because occasionally it's very hot here, you know? And so a lot of the cookbooks that would have been sold around here would have been desserts that come out of the fridge. I don't know. It's not that hot where I live. I actually like that it's cold where I live. I'd kill for a key lime cheesecake right now. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. What's this? I've never had one of these. I don't even know what this is. I've never had a Tip Top jelly tip. I don't know what it is. Nope. Not a thing. Oh, I found out what virus I had, by the way. Monopneumovirus or something. Monopneumovirus. It's a flu. You've had it all as kids. It's just a flu. But there is no vaccine to the strain of flu that exists. But most kids are exposed to it between 2 and 5 months of age. Like, it's that common. Monopneumonosis. I don't know how to spell it. Monopneumonosis. It's like got the pnu, the like the pneumonia. Yeah, like that. I think it's that. I think it's that one. She doesn't love you. I couldn't remember. But the doctors showed me because they showed me which strain my mum tested positive for. So, COVID is spiking everywhere. They actually had COVID in my grandma's nursing home last week. So, yeah. Yep, we are back in cycle. I did a rat test today before. You have to, when you go into a nursing home, you have to do a rat test. So I did one today. No COVID for me currently. And yeah, but no masks. So basically you go in, you do a test, but no masks. because the quality of life for the people, it's really weird, but the quality of life for the people, as long as the people coming in are testing, the quality of life for the residents is no mask. Pretty wild. Because I asked, I was like, should I wear a mask? And they were like, nope. It scares the residents too much. Yep. So quality of life, no masks. And I took mine off because it's, yeah, they don't like it. Which is, it's complicated, isn't it? Like, it really does. So when I went to visit my mum, I was fully gowned up. Gown, mask, gloves, everything. Sitting far away from my mum. But that was in a hospital, so... What's a deal breaker for you? Yeah, nursing homes and schools are huge contagion hotspots for sure. But what are you going to do? Oh, I'm really sorry your dad's in the ICU, Drew. That's really tough. Mum went home from the hospital today, so she's doing okay. My dad had a CT yesterday. Oh, it's just all happening, chat. It's just so spicy. Life, it just keeps going. Someone's always a little bit sick. Oh, well, I mean, that's fine, Will. Do you have to visit anybody in a nursing home in Australia? Probably not, so who cares? He's doing pretty well. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, but every age is kind of that age. Like, you never know when people are going to get sick. My sisters were really sick when they were young. Well, one of them was. I was really sick when I was young. Like, I had really bad asthma. I could have died. Like, it can happen. Sorry, this is very... I understand it's philosophy night, but currently it is the philosophy of mortality because it's on my brain. It's really uplifting content. Everybody says so. It's a very fun, super happy, fun time. Yeah, it's really warm. I've been here since baked cheesecakes and now here we are. Well, yeah, you missed a lot. You missed a lot. My grandma gave me we've now realized, 60-year-old handbag today because she realized she's not going to use it anymore. And it's really beautiful, but it's been very emotional and, yeah, so it's been a big day. I did wear the coat. I did. My grandma was so smiley. She really was. She was so smiley, but I could also tell she was trying really hard not to cry the whole time. But she was happy, She was happy. She just didn't want to eat. So her body doesn't feel like eating anymore. So, and that sucks because, you realize something's not right. On the plus side, my feet are so warm right now, which never happens. What was she smiling about? Well, I went to Officeworks and I printed off some photos of my trip to Scotland, and I printed them off for her to show her because she hates looking at phones. So I printed them off for her. And then we were just talking about everyone, so I can wear a hat, jacket, and a scarf in my life. Right now, no. Unless you're going to give me like $1 million. Do you have $1 million? I need car parts. Still, they're nice things, Will. Are Australian and Canadian dollars pretty similar? Did she open any packs for you? No, my grandma, I wasn't going to ask her to do that because yeah, nah. I got mum and dad to open a pack each, and that was really wholesome. It was fun. Even if my dad did open the Lord of the Rings packet with a fork. I did take a video of it because it was funny. If you're talking about money, there's no deeper philosophy you want to talk about. You come off as a typical hedonist. I mean, look, I'm partial to the occasional little bit of hedonism, but no. At the moment, I probably lean more absurdist. But go to town. Anyway, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea and then we'll dive into the new video. Hedonism in this economy, you can do like cheap hedonism by just like sleeping in and, you know, making a cup of tea. Did you see Chappelle Roan telling the White House to fuck off? I sure fucking did. I'm a Chappelle Roan super fan. Remember I showed you Chappelle Roan very early on, chat, before she got real famous. That's right, I'm one of those indie fucks being like, I found her first. I showed you Chappelle Roan. I gifted that to you. Nanai Tiny. I gifted that shit to you, chat. HOTTOGO. You can thank me every day. I have seen the very lesbian Chappelle Roan TikToks. I'm just going to make a cup of tea because otherwise I'm not going to stay awake. HOTTOGO. You can't take me. Hot to go. Oh, no. Oh, we're just having fun. Cup of tea and biscuits for the governess. No, not for the governess, for me. Or a coffee. I'll meet you for coffee. I put it on my espresso depresso, but it's such a good song. I'll meet you for coffee, but only for coffee. I don't think that's how it goes, but I do love coffee, the song. You want to see my little fluffy dog? Would you? Pixel, up here. Pixel, up here. Look how fluffy she is. My little fluffy dog. Oh, you are so fluffy. Oh, you are just such a poodle. Look at her. She's such a poodle. And you just look how much of a poodle you are. Oh, you're such a poodle. Yes, you got a haircut today, didn't you? But we've left you nice and long because it is so cold. And you deserve to be a happy poodle with a long, lovely coat. Don't you? You deserve the long, fluffy coat. But you have to let me brush it occasionally. Oh my god, I love my dog so much. Oh! Okay. Can I put you underground? So cute. Alright, I'm just gonna go make my Come on. God, it's cold. Come on. I think I accidentally ate some of my hair. There she is. There you are. Gotta lock ourselves in here because this way the heating is cheap. Yeah, you make that so comfy. Yeah, you make sure it's really comfy, okay? Oh, that looks really good, actually. A bit more? I think you've gone too far. Oh, no, see, no, I think you're fucking... Oh, no, I see a vision. I see the vision. So cute, can't handle it. All right, are we ready for some philosophical? It's been a while. Haven't really been in the mental space to do philosophy for a while. But we're back and better than ever. Are we? I don't know if we're better than ever, but you know, we're kind of thriving. Let's see what I think of this. You know, Yeah, alright, let's see what I think.
Judith.
Do we all know that Abby is in the new House of the Dragon as well? Do you guys know this?
Butler might be the most misunderstood philosopher in the world, so I decided to read as much of their work as I could in 1 month. Actually, I read it in like 4 months, but YouTube videos need narrative now. Butler has been writing for over 40 years about a lot of things, including gender. If you've ever heard the idea that gender is performative, that's them. Their work has also been the subject of huge backlash. Like in 2017, protesters in Brazil burned an effigy of Judith Butler. Philosophy doesn't usually get that spicy. I must have missed the effigy making class during my degree. Interestingly, the people with the strongest reactions to Butler often haven't understood or even read their work, and now they have a new book about the backlash. Who's Afraid of Gender? I've deliberately filmed the bulk of this video on a white void background with minimal costumes. Kind of an old-fashioned style on YouTube these days, but I wanted to get across the idea that as controversial as this stuff might be, there's nothing hidden, you're not committing yourself to anything by hearing it, it's just an invitation to listen and consider a different point of view. And really, that's a skill we could all do with practicing, because this philosophy has huge real-world implications.
I mean, I do agree with that, right? Like the polarization of conversation online, especially, is so problematic. So even the ability to listen is extremely important.
I was inspired to take this research journey when I read this article in the Washington Post. Students from E.C. Glass High School in Lynchburg, Virginia, applied for a grant from It Gets Better, a nonprofit dedicated to kids' mental health. And they got it. They were awarded $10,000 to put a chill-out room in their school, a space with comfy chairs and relaxed lighting to go if they're stressed. Nice. But the school board sent the money back. They said that if they took it, students would have to watch pro-LGBTQ videos, which wasn't true. It Gets Better does focus on helping LGBTQ kids, but the room would have been open to anyone and the grant had no requirements about watching anything. But the board wouldn't listen. The board discussed this for longer than they discussed the literal closure of 2 entire schools in their district, and that stunned me. A school board rejected $10,000 of free money and talked about something that isn't true for so long, it impaired their ability to work. So what happened here? Why couldn't they listen? This polarization is exactly what Butler's interested in. I'll take you through their technical philosophy. Although really, I wish I could just show you, because I'm somebody whose mind has definitely changed on these issues. But it's not like I can just go back in time and talk to my past self. Oh my god. These madeleines are amazing. So, you surprised?
Yeah.
Fair. But how surprised are you really?
Why does this kind of look like Mike from PA? Like a little bit.
You look like Mum.
Right?
You sound different.
Seattle Voice Lab. Look them up. I can turn it on and off whenever I want. Oh my god. So in about 3 years, we have to move flats. And the internet contract is in your name. So when I call to cancel it, they won't talk to me. And I have to say, hang on a minute, I'll go get him and do your voice down the phone.
How did Mum and Dad take it?
Really well, actually. There's this nice moment in about 3 years when you and Dad are going to be out. Actually, I think you're gone by this point. It's just me and him. And we bump into some old family friends, and they're super awkward about it, and Dad's just like, whatever, their problem.
He's not embarrassed.
Why would he be embarrassed?
Were you dressed like this?
I dress however I want. Dude, that's the whole point. The whole thing is so liberating. Seriously, you are gonna love it. Just the freedom to be how you
I
want to be.
don't want to be like you.
Why not? Let's talk about femboys. I began at the beginning. Butler's 1988 paper, Performative Acts and Gender Constitution, one of the first things they ever wrote. And right up top, we should acknowledge Butler's academic writing can sometimes be pretty difficult. And that's fair enough. Gender is a difficult subject. Mine took me 2 attempts. What made it click for me is it reminded me of a friend who we'll call F. F is very cool, clever and funny and unpretentious, the kind of person who turns up to a fancy restaurant wearing a trucker hat. F is also a femboy. Femboys take on attributes that are typically considered feminine, but they are not themselves women, usually.
Are we talking about Finn? F. I feel like that might be Finn there, man. Yeah, Finn. Yeah, I feel like it's Finn.
Femboy is also a genre of online content. F dresses up like a girl and streams himself playing video games. When I first met F, I wondered, is femboy a gender? Well, it's less a thing that you are and more a thing that you do, like a job. And interestingly, because the femboy aesthetic is so shaped by online content, to do femboy in a way that other people will recognize requires you to adopt certain behaviors and stylized practices.
No, I
whose
don't
meaning
think Abby is
not determined by
anti femboy.
You can't choose what the trends are, what styles of makeup.
They've been
or
in
dress
videos with
signal
Finsta
femboy.
before, so
you've got to
no.
learn them and do them if you want to be seen that way. And F works pretty hard at that. If you're very clever, you'll already have guessed where this is going. According to Butler, all gender works that way. In this paper, they say that gender is a thing we do through repeated, stylized acts, not a property, but an embodied event. Those acts
Oh, chat, we caught one. The end of civilization starts with the feminization of men, promiscuity of women, and the celebration of homosexuality. You sound like you're fun at parties.
get their meaning from a
Just facts? Yeah, where are you getting those facts from, King? Where exactly did you find those facts? Maybe you just need to double your masculinity to make up for the feminization of the other men. Pull it together.
social world. So in a way, gender is also a thing that is done to us.
Gender is in no way a stable identity or locus of agency from which various acts proceed.
By the way, this is Finn's voice, everybody. So clearly, her and Finn are very good friends.
Rather, it's an identity tenuously constituted in time. An identity instituted through a stylized repetition of acts. Further, gender is instituted through a stylization of the body, and hence must be understood as the mundane way in which bodily gestures, movements, and enactments of various kinds constitute the illusion of an abiding gendered self.
You're ridiculous.
Says discount Tom Hiddleston.
Your face doesn't look like me anymore. Did you get plastic surgery on my face?
Well, there's no plastic in me, babes. I'm all natural.
Artificial surgery makes you natural, does it?
At first glance, Butler's ideas seemed a little strange to me, because we often talk as if gender is an inner truth. For example, when people change gender and come out, we're often...
This is spicy. This is the spicy part of Judith Butler's philosophy. And the part that a lot of people find extremely confronting because, you know, it really does. It is occasionally at odds with any sort of born this way sort of vibe that other people might find really validating.
said to be living authentically or being true to ourselves. Even the term coming out implies that there was an authentic self before who was hidden. But according to Butler, there might be no such thing. It's not that I exist and then I choose to perform gender in ways that you will recognize. I can't even form a concept of I without using gendered language and stylized practices whose meaning exists prior to me. Gender is one of the ways that human subjects come into existence. The technical term here is subjectification, and that process happens publicly. Gender creates the illusion of a private self which exists before all of that, but this is just an illusion. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, it has no pronouns. Herein lies the distinction between performative and performance, which are often mixed up. When people say gender is a performance, they mean that people exist first without gender, and then they put on costumes or makeup or wigs the way that an actor does. But that's not what Butler is saying. Performative is a technical philosophy term for when you say something, and by saying it, you also do it. For example, if you say, I promise, you say the words, and you make a promise. If a judge says, I sentence you, they say it, and they do it. When Butler says that gender is performative, they mean it that way. You do it, and you make it so. And indeed, by doing it, you are made so. And people have made fun of Butler for this idea. I've seen people say, oh, Judith Butler says you can just choose to be any gender you want. Oh, men can choose to be women, and women can choose to be baboons, and I can choose to be an attack helicopter. Ha ha, how silly. But when I actually read their work, I realized that's not what they're saying at all. Our very concept of ourselves as gendered subjects requires a social world. We depend on others for the recognition we need.
It's true. I mean, we would have no conceptualization of these things, one, without the language to be able to describe it, which is why you see conservatives doing the whole book burning thing and just trying to, like, uneducate people because, you know, that's apparently their answer to social control, which doesn't seem very progressive or fun for the future, but, you know, whatevs. But also you wouldn't have any conceptualization without, like, the sociological structures in which you have to perform gender. Right? Your interactions with people also create the way you experience gender. Yeah, can't see how many times across history. I mean, we burnt the Library of Alexandria. You know, the information that has been lost to history because people get scared of progress is pretty terrifying. And yet it continues to happen one way or another.
We need to become gendered subjects. We can still make some choices, wear whatever clothes or makeup you like, but the meaning of those things is not within our sole control. People have been making jokes like that about Butler for decades, even though they address this misunderstanding in their first paper, in the first paragraph. Almost like the people mocking them aren't really listening.
Wow. I've never seen that happen once before.
There is no volitional subject behind the mime who decides, as it were, which gender it will be today. On the contrary, the very possibility of becoming a viable subject requires that a certain gender mime be already underway.
But even in the way, so for the way, like, I am relatively femme presenting, at least in my face. Like, I am extremely femme presenting. But on any given day, the clothes or the different choices I make with my clothing probably make people perceive me differently. That is how it works. It's also why fashion is so interesting. It's why self-presentation is so interesting. And it's also why, like, your personal development is so interesting. And also, it doesn't have to be stagnant. You don't, like, some people pick an aesthetic and stick with it for life and then never consider it ever again. But that's not the way it has to be.
I didn't come back here to argue with you. I'm trying to help.
I don't believe it. It's a trick.
You were born in Newcastle. Your favourite food is Chinese. Your first crush was named Flossie.
No, you could have tortured me and gotten that information.
What?
Well, I don't know, you could have gotten it out of me somehow in the future.
Just listen to me. We're the same height. We have the same eyes.
Your body's completely different.
Yes!
Dottie, I do think that they're like this is a little bit spicy as well, but there is a group of people who do not consider themselves men because they do not associate with the connotations of man. But like, and again, that's fine. And people get to their identities in all sorts of different ways, and they appear in different ways. And like, there are so many trans people in this community who have experienced, you know, a shift in their gender identity or the way that they experience their own gender as well. Like, it's a normal and it's an interesting process across a spectrum as well, right? You can experience your gender across a very, like, for example, for me, I feel like a woman, right? My internal experience feels like that of a woman. But most of the time, I am still experiencing my gender across a spectrum. It's not a trans spectrum, but it is a spectrum. And then some people experience their gender across a trans spectrum, where it goes a lot further than that. Some people are gender fluid the whole time.
That's the point!
Human bodies can't change that much.
What do you mean?
Even if you are,
Let's talk about Kristen Stewart. Next up.
I love that you are making focus on this talking point. It covers so much and helps so many learn more.
That's really nice. Thank you for the 1,000 bits. I'm more than happy to.
On my reading list was Butler's famous 1990 book, Gender Trouble. But it's pretty tough and technical, so we could use a bit of a run-up. We can actually start with this. In March 2024, actor Kristen Stewart appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone, looking... In the interview, Stewart said,
I want to do the gayest thing you've ever seen in your life. If I could grow a little mustache, if I could grow a happy trail and unbutton my pants, I would.
Spicy.
Later, at the Berlin Film Festival, she added,
The existence of a female body thrusting any type of sexuality at you that's not designed for or desired by exclusively cis straight males is something people are not super comfy with. And so I'm really happy with it. I had a great time.
a lot of people think that there's a difference between sex and gender. Sex is supposed to be the physical thing, some combination of genes or genitals or gametes, or maybe it's something in your brain, but it's there in the world, and gender is just what we do with it, or at least that's how the story goes. It might be helpful.
This is spicy. Like, I love philosophy for this reason, because there are a lot of people, even the fact that Abby is trying to expand on this particular point will make a lot of people uncomfortable, because explaining concepts that are, I guess, this complicated, a lot of people will not respond very well to, because there is a simplicity even some people in the trans community probably like a certain level of simplicity, you know? You see it with the really more old-fashioned, like, trans medicalists, right? You're not trans unless you transition crowd. And nuance is hard, and there would be a big group of the population who would not even know that this conversation exists.
To know something of the history of that idea. For millennia, male-dominated societies exploited women and justified it by claiming that we are naturally inferior. From Greek and Roman philosophers saying that women can't be educated, to Victorian doctors saying that we are too emotional to vote, to today, some people still say women are by nature not equipped to live as equal members of society. Oh, she could never lead a nation? What if she got her period and started a war?
Men have never started wars. Ever. So, you know.
Misogyny has consistently justified itself by appealing to facts about our bodies that are simply made up. If you'd like to know more about the history of this practice, then I really recommend The Once and Future Sex by historian Eleanor Janiger. Into this context comes French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, whose landmark book, The Second Sex, comes out in 1949 and opens with this sentence.
One is not born, but rather becomes a woman.
Again, so Simone de Beauvoir, and it's very the concept of the other, the idea that if you are a woman, you are the opposite to man. Man is the blueprint. As woman, you are the other. Therefore, you learn to be a woman by being presented or learning otherness, and even internalizing that otherness to all of the qualities of man that are the blueprint. Now, I have simplified that in a pretty rudimentary way, but if you have questions, you can ask.
Beauvoir challenges this history, saying that whilst there are facts about female biology, male-dominated society also makes a lot of stuff up and claims that the stuff it makes up is facts. The technical term here is naturalization, making something appear natural. For example, women are denied the vote? Well, it's not because we live in an unequal society, it's because the female brain just can't handle it because of biology. So, she says, one is born female, but woman is a socially constructed ideal of subordination that we are encouraged to embrace and punished for defying. And then, in the 1980s, along come French philosophers Monique Wittig and Michel Foucault, who say this sex versus gender distinction is just another layer of control. De Beauvoir thinks that woman is an oppressive social construct, but female somehow isn't? Human beings are 99.9% identical. Who does it serve to split hairs about the remaining 0.1%? Defining one half of the human species in terms of our capacity to carry babies and be fertile and straight, and thereby participate in systems of property and inheritance overwhelmingly controlled by men. Does that sound like a natural distinction? Or does it sound like a political one? Wittig actually says that women should reject womanhood entirely by becoming lesbians, rejecting the patriarchal categories of both
Yes. The perfect answer to everybody's problems. Rejecting men entirely. It's going really well. Men, notoriously good at dealing with rejection. They're so good at it. They're so good at dealing with it. I'm so joking. I love men. And, yep. I think it's the 4B movement, Vox, I think. Yeah, it was femcel. It's political lesbianism.
Woman and female, categories which she says only make sense inside the heterosexual matrix.
Not the
Do not try and
heterosexual
change
matrix.
sex. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no sex. We've been compelled in our bodies and in our minds to correspond feature by feature with the idea of nature that has been established for us, distorted to such an extent that our deformed body is what they call natural, what is supposed to exist as such before oppression, distorted to such an extent that in the end oppression seems to be a consequence of this nature within ourselves. By admitting that there is a natural division between women and men, we naturalize history. Not only do we naturalize history, but also, consequently, we naturalize the social phenomena which express our oppression, making change impossible. Lesbian is the only concept I know.
I do think in the way that society exists now, there are significant differences between large portions of men and women. And I think I think sometimes when we have these conversations, a lot of people watching who might not be particularly amenable to progressive, gender analysis go, well, I don't know about you, bitch, but actually I think there's some pretty clear differences between you and me. And at that point, I would say, yes, there is, because our socialization has been entirely different. Our life experience is different. Your experience, your masculine experience has been extremely different to mine, in which I was raised in a feminine way. So it's like, you have to consider it beyond the current stringent experiences that exist in society. Because, if you live in a city center like me, you've probably got friends who are trans. You've probably got friends who are, non-binary. You've got, you're exposed to more varied life experiences. Whereas if you're from a small town in the middle of nowhere, the reality is those parameters of society are still rather firm.
Know of which is beyond the categories of sex, woman and man, because the designated subject, lesbian, is not a woman, either economically or politically or ideologically. For what makes a woman is a specific social relation to a man, a relation that we have previously called servitude, a relation which implies personal and physical obligation as well as economic obligation, forced residence, domestic corvée, conjugal duties, unlimited production of children, etc., a relation which lesbians escape by refusing to become or stay heterosexual.
I kind of fucking hate that though. Like, I'm not sure where this is going, but I don't like for what makes a woman is a specific social relation to a man, because I do believe that you can be a woman without, like, this definition of what a woman is does not resonate with me personally, because I think you can be a woman without having any sort of heterosexual relationship with a man, and that, yeah, but I understand this is, I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that's uncomfortable for me.
I'm not sure that I personally agree with everything Wittig says, but it's
okay, cool.
Provocative thought.
It is a provocative thought. I entirely disagree for myself, but
worth listening to. And in Gender Trouble, but
no, because being a man is the blueprint, Percy, right? So in order to so woman exists secondary to man, right? So men can be men without any sort of relationship to women. But that definition of woman is one that is based on womanhood built by men in relation to men, if that makes sense. There's an implication of hierarchy. Yeah. Yeah. You can go as far back to the Bible and be like, well, women were actually formed from, Adam's rib in science, bitches.
Thinks so too. They say we should question the idea that sex is a natural category. And that might sound very out there, but just listen for a moment. Once upon a time, people believed that race was a natural category. They wrote scientific papers about it and measured people's skulls and took blood samples, and they believed that it was real. Nowadays, we know that race is a political grouping that was naturalized, made to look natural, in large part to justify slavery. And we also know that sex was a big part of that. Black women and white women were categorized very differently. So are you certain that the distinction between male and female is as secure as you've been told?
I'm going to say probably not. I read The Most Misunderstood Philosopher in the World, Blasphemous. It's a video on Judith Butler, who is a bit of a spicy gender philosopher, but interesting nonetheless. I don't know. Like, if you think about the variations that exists across bodies, genitals, you know, even the way different bodies of the same sex present, there is so much differentiation. Like, there are some commonalities, but there are a lot of differences.
Who told you that? Why did they tell you it? And who benefits from you continuing to believe it?
You think that's pussy you're eating now?
This is the artistic space that Kristen Stewart's photo shoot is playing in. The piece, and Stewart's comments, engage in what Butler calls re-signification, giving a new meaning to something. In this case, Stewart's body. The question it poses is, what if this is also female? What does that tell us about the sense or non-sense of gendered categories? But if sex isn't real, then why did I go through all the trouble of changing mine? It's a blunt question, but it's not an unfair one. So, when I finished Gender Trouble, I also read this, Whipping Girl by Julia Serrano. Serrano is a biologist. She believes in what she calls subconscious sex, something in the brain that expects the body to be a certain way. She thinks this would explain the existence of people like me, and also her, whose gender just feels right. It's an interesting idea, and I think it gets to the heart of an intuition a lot of us have to go, well, look, like, physical differences are there. We can see them. Some human beings can get pregnant and others can't. Like, is Butler really saying that all of that isn't real? But then I read the book again, and it turns out that's also a misunderstanding. Butler's not saying that the physical world isn't there, or even that it's unknowable. They're just saying that whatever facts there might be about biological sex, we can only learn them and talk about them through gender. To say the sentence, my brain expects my body to be female, is to draw on a particular understanding of the word female. And while we're at it, a particular understanding of the meaning of the words my and body, that get their meaning from a social world. I've seen some more recent philosophers use the term sex/gender, and even sex/gender/race, and now I understand why. We can't really think about those things separately. It's not that there's sex, the biological reality, and then there's gender on top of it.
Bearded Ruckus, that's a really rudimentary interpretation of this conversation.
It's all gender.
It's all gender?
Always has been. Physical features appear to be in some sense there, on the far side of language, unmarked by a social system. It is unclear, however...
By the way, you don't necessarily have to agree with this interpretation of gender. Right? You don't have to agree with this entire philosophy. But the idea that people who experience non-conforming gender and gender dysphoria and gender fluidity are just placing feelings as the standard for truth is stupid. It's like the most man thing you can do, where you're like, truth is facts and logic and devoid of feelings. Because, like, what is truth? Truth could be bodily autonomy, right? A truth to me is that every human should be able to choose whatever the fuck they want to do with their body. Whether that's how they present themselves to society, whether or not they get tattoos, whether or not, they tie their tubes, whether or not they have sex, right? Their right to bodily autonomy should be something that is absolute. Not at any age. I'm not making a libertarian argument, no. 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 Emotions are a part of the whole division. When people come in here and they're like facts and logic, right? At what point have we absolutely gone and sat there and gone, this is where emotions and feelings live, and this is where facts and logic live, and neither the two are intertwined? You're saying emotions are important but entirely separate. Incorrect. These things exist together. Emotions and feelings are included in facts and logic, right? You're going to tell me that the men out there who are making decisions based on upholding the patriarchy are making those decisions based on logic? So what do you mean? Saying emotions are not the standard is like literally just a moot point. It means nothing. The things in your brain as you perceive as facts and logic are almost always post hoc justifications you're making downstream of a feeling you unknowingly had prior. Exactly. The slippery slope argument is always made against progressive ideas. Yeah, it's because a lot of people, it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when something rattles your moral foundations or your previous understanding of your life experience, or something that is like entirely different to the experience that you've had. It can rattle things, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, it's the end of civilization because people started having gay sex. Oh my god, if my girlfriend pegs me, the world will end. I'll be happy for like 2 seconds, but then the world will end and my masculinity will be gone forever. It's like, guys, they're very big emotions, okay? Let's bring it back to some facts and logic here. Experiencing pleasure, whatever way, has nothing to do with your masculinity, your femininity, or any of it. I'm sorry, the world's shit. If you like to feel good sometimes, as long as you're not harming anybody else, unless it's consensually or whatever, fuck. I mean, then who fucking gives a fuck? Are you having a nice time? Congratulations. 10 out of 10. I'm so happy for you. Why is don't kill people not an emotional argument, but kill people is my only question about this entire line of argument. Because kill people is super strong, and we love that. Not killing people is weak feminine energy, and I don't really like that. It's weak feminine energy. It's pacifism, you know? And, you know, you got to get out there. You got to be strong. You got to fight for your right to party. Sorry, I got that off Travis Kelce. My masculine inspiration. That's so dumb. I mean, it's not dumb. I disagree. Everyone has a conscience and knows exactly what's right and wrong. No, they fucking don't, man. They don't, though. Like, on what planet do we all have the same fucking moral foundation? We just don't. We just don't. There are men out there who are like, it is my God-forsaken right to be able to cheat because I'm just a man. I have to spread my seed. It is my natural instinct to want to spread my seed around. Yeah. And you're going to say that those men in deep down in their head know that that's what? Inherently right? No, because there's a bunch of men out there who are like, maybe I won't do that because, like, maybe I'll be sleeping around and then maybe I'll catch a STI and I'll give it to my loving wife whom I'm cheating on, and then she'll, like, have all sorts of issues because I cheated on her. Like, it... No, people don't just know what's right.
That these features could be named in a way that would not reproduce the reductive operation of the categories of sex. In other words, sex imposes an artificial unity on an otherwise discontinuous set
It's a socially learnt thing that we all learn together depending on where you grow up and what you learn. And like, yes, I think we can all agree across the globe that maybe we shouldn't be killing each other. Maybe we should be fighting for equal rights, but there are a lot of fucking people out there who seem to disagree with those things. So the standard is the standard that we keep fighting for. The standard are the standards that we push as we progress. Like, all you have to do is look at history. To look at what they considered right and wrong throughout history. You know, we were solving problems in a fucking Colosseum, right? What's right and wrong changes over time as we fight for what is right and wrong. And as we become a more intelligent, empathetic species, hopefully with a better capacity to communicate with one another, we get to a point where the standards for right and wrong become kinder, more compassionate, maybe more community focused. Maybe we put our heads together and finally become a spacefaring nation, you know?
of attributes. As both discursive and perceptual, sex denotes a historically contingent epistemic regime, a language that forms perception by forcibly shaping the interrelationships through which physical bodies are perceived. The existence and facticity of the material or natural dimensions of the body are not denied, but reconceived as distinct from the process by which the body comes to bear cultural meanings. If gender is the cultural significance that the sexed body assumes, and if that significance is co-determined through various acts in their cultural perception, then it would appear that from within the terms of culture, it is not possible to know sex as distinct from gender.
And then I turned on the news.
Biological sex really matters.
I'm glad you've said what a woman is, because a lot of people will be thinking, why can't we say what a woman is?
I start with biology. Yep. Biology, and obviously there's a distinction between sex and gender.
All right, well, let's... You can't change sex, okay? That is a biological fact.
And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't.
A woman is a human being who belongs to the sex class that produces large gametes.
May I suggest also posting interesting and positive content on other matters?
I live in England,
lol,
where a lot of people are talking about sex at the moment. Some say that sex is a fixed point that cannot be changed or resignified or...
I would argue against saying everyone has a conscience and knows right from wrong, things like culture. Exactly. No, I agree with you, Declams. I agree with you. Also, we've had that objective morality debate here too.
Questioned, whereas gender is just a nebulous feeling or a contested belief. I thought all that feminist philosophy was pretty interesting, but it seems some people don't want to listen.
Human bodies can't change that much.
What do you mean?
Even if you are me, right? Let's just say you are, for the sake of the argument, right? You say you're happy, but what about the version of us from 20, 30, 40 years into the far future? What if they walk in now and say, you made a mistake?
Then I made the mistake you wanted to make.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
The gates of hell are locked from the inside.
What makes me suspicious, right, is you're coming in here going, ooh, everything's wonderful, right? Trying to convince me, but you don't mention any downsides.
Of course there's downsides.
Well, go on then.
Street harassment? Men are going to shout at you in the street. Men push into you and interrupt you.
And?
And it's scary sometimes.
I do play this little game sometimes on the street. Right, this is going to sound insane, so you can decide whether or not I'm insane. But I read a long time ago in my life, I read that women move out of the way for men to walk straight ahead all the time. And occasionally when I'm walking down the sidewalk and somebody is walking straight towards me, I decide not to move if it's a man. And the amount of times I have just been walked straight into is kind of funny. Like, I'm always prepared for it, but I find it really funny. It's like playing a little game of chicken. And I assume maybe other people are playing it too. But I think it's kind of funny. And then there are a lot of times when I will just move out of the way and I will, you know, whatever. But it does bother me sometimes. And so that's my little micro-feminist aggression that I pull on the street sometimes. Put me in jail.
Being a woman. There's this girl called Sarah Everard. She's going to get murdered in 2021 by a police officer. It's a big thing. It's on all the news. And they have a vigil for her in London. Women come from all over the country. And the police beat and arrest the women at the vigil. And you're going to see that and you're going to feel scared because it's like, wow, this is how they treat us.
Were you there?
No. I didn't feel entitled to.
Good. The body we have is threatening. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to be at an event about violence against women.
We're not violent. I mean, we're like tall, but so are giraffes. Bodies are just bodies. I wish I had been there. We need all the allies we can get. I tell you this, you're gonna have to go through so much bullshit just to get healthcare, and all of that comes from this place of being like, oh, everybody needs to fit a strict definition, everyone has to be in a little box. Like, f that. I'll do what I want and I'll help who I can. Let's talk about feminism. If there is no natural category of sex, then how can we argue for women's rights? That's a question some people are asking, and I'll admit I was curious. I've seen some say that Butler is erasing women, and that in order to protect us from things like discrimination and assault, the law needs a strict definition of woman grounded in facts about biological sex. Thing is, I happen to know, just off my own bat, that that's actually incorrect. For example, suppose an employer denies a job to a candidate named Hillary because they think, oh, women be shopping, women are unreliable employees, application denied.
Oh,
Only
Dino,
it
I'm
turns out
glad.
Hillary is Hillary with one L. The candidate
Angelica's
is a man.
great.
In that case, the employer can still be guilty of sexual discrimination, even though their definition of what a woman is false and didn't even apply. The same principle also goes in crime.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. When you're like hanging out, so for example, when I'm hanging out in my apartment, occasionally I will realize that I am almost performing my gender to myself. And then other times I will feel so naturally me. And some of the things that are very naturally me are so girly in nature. Like, they really are. Like, I don't post any of my shit on the internet because I can't handle it, but I dance around my house almost every morning. Like, the only way I get out of bed is by putting, like, music on and dancing around my house. Like, you know, picture Emma Stone in Easy A. That is me most mornings. To no one. No one sees that. And sometimes I'm like, wait, am I performing this for myself? No, I'm just doing it. Because it feels good. I don't know if I would do it if somebody else is in the house. Or in the house. But it's so interesting. But when you're sitting on the couch watching TV, you're not actively contemplating your gender. Right? You just are. You're allowed to bump into people, follow Stan, sometimes. You're allowed to bump in, so don't even worry about it, follow Stan. Like, if you bump into somebody, you just say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Depending on the context.
Like assault. If a straight person gets attacked coming out of a gay club, that can still be a homophobic hate crime if the suspect believes that they're gay and attacks them for that reason. What matters in law is the suspect's actions and motivations, not whether the victim meets a particular definition. Even though this is a matter of settled law, some people still insist that a strict definition is required. Almost like those people aren't listening.
If you are a trust fund rich kid, I found out that I need $3,000 worth of car parts, so hook me up. Jokes, but also not jokes. How we're expected to sit in public pains me. Just try and sit comfortably would be most of the time, and try not to spread too much if there's people around you. I have low empathy and alexithymia. I struggle to understand emotions in reading people, so I just mirror how others act in situations without genuinely understanding why. Do you find yourself wanting to be nice to people or associate with people? Because even if you have low empathy, right? Unless you are a diagnosed, sociopath, then most of the time, no. See, that's so interesting to me. We have such varied life experiences, don't we? I experienced so much fulfillment in my life from attempting to understand people and be empathetic towards them.
But anyway, wouldn't it still be useful to have some definition of woman, even if we all know it's kind of vague and loose? Could it be useful as a political standard to rally around? I read Butler's 1991 paper, Imitation and Gender Subordination, which is partly about this definition question. They say that defining womanhood has been, and still is, a key strategy of patriarchy. And that's what de Beauvoir was writing about in the 40s. Trying to set an exact definition is always going to be an exclusionary project, whereas a certain amount of grey area would be more inclusive. Indeed, they say that any category, like gay, lesbian, trans, femboy, imposes limits, and trying to make everybody fit one specific box as if they...
This is my biggest problem with the left. It always has been. I've had this opinion for basically the whole time I've been streaming. And it has been spicy. And it still is kind of spicy. But the less labels, the better, my friends. Like, I understand that in certain circumstances, labels are required. I really do. As humans, we need to be able to categorize. But fuck me, man. And also the way that labels are, like, bastardized by capitalism. I don't even know if I don't think I'm allowed to use that word anymore. Cancel me. But capitalism absolutely fucks with labels in a way that labels no longer just identify you to other members of community. What they do is they become your personal brand. And the idea that to be a human is to have a personal brand is something that I fight tooth and nail against, because it makes me want to fucking murder no one, because I actually don't have a violent bone in my body, but it does make me very angry. We are. Look, it's a very human thing to want to categorize, but there are some that we should leave open. Like, sometimes the better thing to do is to sit with your discomfort rather than be like, I have to label that, or if I don't label that, that's going to be very uncomfortable. Like, sometimes it's better to sit in the discomfort.
Must have some inner self that corresponds to one of them is just a bad idea. And I understood where Butler was coming from there. In Britain, trans people are often expected to tell doctors a certain story about our lives. We're supposed to say,
Shivering
ever
from
since I was a
personal
child, I called myself
experience.
Wendy and wore my mother's dresses, and if your life doesn't fit that narrative, it can be very hard to get medical care. The concept of an authentic inner self that needs to be discovered and verified and checked and meet somebody else's definition is used against us.
Identity categories tend to be instruments.
Well, guys, there is a bunch of progressives that exist that attempt to... Look, the thing is, there is no one left, right? There is no overarching cohesive left. The way the left functions in America is entirely different to leftist movements in other places, right? But the problem is that through well-meaning attempts at inclusivity, sometimes shit goes sideways. I can imagine that being a professional streamer could make someone feel kind of like a brand in a way. It happens for professional streamers. It happens in normal fucking office jobs, normal corporate jobs, you know? People work on their personal brand through their LinkedIn. People work on their personal brand in the way that they present themselves to their friends, right? But it is specifically bad on the internet when you are like surrounded by content creators, for sure. And also, you have to be very careful because a lot of people who are using these labels are doing it to find their community and to feel comfortable, right? Not necessarily to be picked up by brands who want to neoliberally paint a rainbow over a bunch of things so that they can make more money. It's extremely complicated. Like, I don't have a label at all, right? Not really. Probably woman is one that I have, but beyond that, not really. But on the bus while I was traveling through Scotland and the music was playing, it got to the point where I was so overstimulated that I had to put my headphones in, and then I literally went non-verbal for like 3 hours. I couldn't talk to anybody and I couldn't look at anyone in the eyes, and I literally felt like I wanted to punch a baby. And I love children. I didn't actually want to punch a baby. I'm just using that turn of phrase to express the inner rage that I was feeling because I was so overstimulated. I just, you know, there's room for nuance here. And listening and kindness. How are we only a third of the way through this video?
Of regulatory regimes, whether as the normalizing categories of oppressive structures or as the rallying points for a liberatory contestation of that very oppression. That is not to say that I will not appear at political occasions under the sign of lesbian, but that I would like to have it permanently unclear what precisely that sign signifies. Which version of lesbian or gay ought to be rendered visible, and which internal exclusions will that rendering visible institute? Can the visibility of identity suffice as a political strategy, or can it only be the starting point for a strategic intervention which calls for a transformation of policy? Is it not a sign of despair over public politics when identity becomes its own policy, bringing with it those who would police it from various sides?
I think that's a good point.
I don't know what else to tell you, man. Change is difficult, but it is possible.
This is gonna fuck up our career.
On the contrary.
Well, it's gonna fuck up our love life.
On the contrary.
Well, look, as far as anyone knows right now, I'm a cishet white guy, right? Like, I'm top of the pile. Surely it would be easier to not change.
Oh yeah. Way easier. If you want to be depressed every day of your life and kill yourself at 35.
You know what I mean. Politically, things aren't great in my time. I assume in the future they do not vastly improve.
Let's talk about 9/11 and dicks. Oh, this is where things get silly, and then they get very not silly. A penis is an organ of the human body.
Wow, thank you
Nerves
so
and blood
much.
vessels and skin and so on. Its primary function.
Not a day goes by on the internet where I find myself not at least once having to talk about penises. And honestly, I think that is enough proof that the patriarchy exists in itself. Because every day I have to talk about dicks. Every single day. It's just part of the conversation. Every day. There's no escaping it.
Is to allow women who have one to pee standing up if the toilet of the train carriage that you're in is really gross. And it also does some other stuff. Remember what we said earlier, though. It's not that there's the physical organ and then a bunch of other social constructy stuff on top. According to Butler, we can only know the body through the social world of symbolic meanings. So that particular organ often means power, strength, domination, particularly when used for penetration, and the threat of male violence. That bundle of cultural and symbolic meanings is what philosophers call the phallus. Can a woman have a penis? This question was a fad in British media a year or two ago. Journalists kept ambushing politicians with it and watching them struggle, but really the answer is quite simple. In Britain, you can change your legal sex without surgery, because international human rights law recognizes it's probably morally wrong to make a certain group of people undergo expensive, difficult, potentially risky, invasive medical procedures that they may not want in order to do things like get married. So, if you are assigned male at birth, you can change your legal sex in Britain and become a woman without surgery. It's not an easy process, but surgery isn't mandatory.
You shouldn't have to have surgery. You shouldn't have to have surgery, and it also, you shouldn't have to have surgery. I truly believe that people should be able to experience their gender in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. You know, make it a pick and mix. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? The reality is most people don't have the money to be able to afford to do any of it anyway.
If you like your dick, you can keep it. Beyond the legal situation, though, if a person assigned male takes feminizing hormones, then their body will change, and that includes their genitals, which can change a lot more than you might think. In some cases, it essentially becomes a large clitoris, incapable of erection or penetration. And whether you want to call that a female penis or a feminine penis, or whether you think there's not much distinction there, legally and medically, the facts are in. Can a woman have a penis? Yeah. And yet, people who haven't experienced all that for themselves often don't listen to those who have. Maybe you were giggling when I told you all of that stuff. The idea of a female penis is so unimaginable that it's like a punchline, right? Despite the fact that it is just a normal thing that some people have. It appears funny and unexpected. The idea of re-signifying that, using it differently but not wrongly, not powerful, not for penetration, not even male, appears to be almost a contradiction. Because
Exactly,
that
Christy.
bundle of
Also,
cultural and
intersex
symbolic
people.
meanings has been naturalized.
I don't
Seem
Christy, I don't think we use the word hermaphrodite anymore. I think we use the term intersex.
natural. And this is a very common mistake. We might even call it a fallacy. All of this is deeply funny, until the second it affects government policy. In February 2023, British Justice Secretary Dominic Raab announced that from now on, women who have male genitalia who are arrested will be sent to a men's prison, regardless of what we look like, regardless of whether we have legally changed sex, and regardless of what we are charged with. If, for example, I was arrested at a protest, if I was wrongfully arrested for something, I would be sent to a men's prison.
See, that freaks me out. That really does. That's horrendous. Like, I think there's got to be nuance here, right? You know? If somebody is arrested for stealing, you know, but if somebody is arrested for a sex crime, there has to be nuance there. I think, but the problem is that the way this conversation goes, and especially the way that this conversation is going in the UK, people are using that as a scare tactic to be like, well, what happens if they end up in the women's prisons? You know, that puts women, like, you know, at very great risk. And it's a scare tactic, which is just, you know, the most unhuman way of looking at this whole thing. Because imagine Abby being put into a men's prison for being arrested at a protest. How do you think that's going to go for her?
I'm sure you can imagine, although you may not want to, how that might go. There isn't really any good kind of prison, but this policy makes prison worse for a certain section of the population because of the way that we are born. And in that regard, it's ethically unusual. It's normally a principle of justice that similar crimes should carry similar sentences, but in my home country, the same crime might carry a much harsher prison sentence if you're a trans woman. This discrimination is justified by politicians by appealing
it's amazing
to the
what's
supposed
accepted in
threat
prisons.
that penises carry. But remember, it's regardless of our crime or what our particular bodies are capable of. And that's quite philosophically interesting. They say that we are a threat, but they are not listening to any actual facts about us. Since that 2023 announcement, I'd been trying to understand and listen to the Justice Secretary's perspective and work my way through the fear. So, the next item on my reading list was Butler's
I actually watched that movie with what's-his-face in it, the really famous guy that was in and out of prison in the UK. I think it's got Tom Hardy in it. And it's based on a true story. Does anybody know the movie that I'm talking about? Yeah, Charles Bronson. Hello, Baz. Hi. Yeah, that was pretty wild. It was a little bit of a masturbatory movie, but it was interesting to watch. But you see, you kind of see how violent coping mechanisms develop. Yeah, I like to describe films in which the lead actor gets a lot of really self-indulgent scenes as masturbatory. They're good films still, but they're films in which you can tell they have been written in a way that allows an actor to really just... do you know what I mean?
They're just masturbatory films. I'm trying to think of another example. Like, you know, ones with like super long monologues where, you know, an actor doesn't have any cuts in the scene. And like a lot of the time it's really good, but it's also you watch it and you can also tell that they're just like, oh bitch, I am acting right now. That's how I felt about that movie. Like, it was good, but like, you know, that feeling? Kind of weird term. I don't think it's weird. I'm just shutting the door. I have to regulate the temperature in here a little. Yeah, they're massaging their ego rather than something else.
2003 volume Precarious Life.
Ugh.
They write about 9/11 and the War on Terror. In particular, the people who were detained indefinitely in Guantanamo Bay by the US government. Terror suspects. And suspects is a key word there because many of those imprisoned were never given a trial. Some of them were never even charged. The government said those people had to be imprisoned because they were dangerous, but not the kind of danger that they could prove in a trial.
The danger that these prisoners are said to pose is unlike dangers that might be substantiated.
I do think one of the most horrific things that can happen to a human being on this planet is being wrongfully accused of a crime. Like, for all of the shit I will hang on Kim Kardashian, her work advocating for the rights of prisoners has been admirable. Does it make up for all the bullshit? Probably not. But it's interesting in itself. Because some of the stories that come out of prisons of people who were wrongfully accused, sentenced to prison, spent their entire lives in prison. Like, I watched this one documentary of this guy who'd been in prison his whole life, and he was so gentle about it. He got out of prison. And was just like, you know, that's just the way it went. He was so matter of fact about it. There was barely any bitterness, you know, and I can't imagine what mentally that is like to deal with. Caitlyn Jenner definitely ran over someone and killed them. And then it was brushed under a rug, yes. Caitlyn Jenner, I don't like at all. I can absolutely say I detest that woman. But, you know, I'm not putting you on trial for the sins of your dad. I can put you on trial for your own fucking sins. And yeah, bad people do good things, good people do bad things. Yeah, you know, people are multifaceted. The term that was recommended was DSD, Disorders of Sex Development. Not sure if that's still the current thinking, but just thought it was interesting. That is really interesting to share, Rookie. When I was in university, it was, yeah, intersex, but, you know, I'm sure it's different across the board. Like it's different across the board, you know, with autism. You know, some people prefer the term person with autism, and some people prefer autistic person. You know, and a lot of the time you might get it wrong, but you know, those arguments exist across the entire community. So it's interesting.
In a court of law and redressed through punishment. Establishing dangerousness is not the same as establishing guilt. A certain level of dangerousness takes a human being outside the bounds of law, and even outside the bounds of the military tribunal itself. Makes that human into the state's possession, infinitely detainable. What counts as dangerous is what is deemed dangerous by the state, so that, once again, The state posits what is dangerous, and in so doing establishes the conditions for its own preemption and usurpation of the law. If a person is deemed dangerous, then it is no longer a matter of deciding whether criminal acts occurred. Indeed, deeming someone dangerous is an unsubstantiated judgment that in these cases works to preempt determinations for which evidence is required.
If you're very
Chat, am I dangerous?
clever, you'll already have realized that when governments call people dangerous in this way, they're using performative speech. They say it, and they make it so. But what's happening here isn't subjectification, it's abjectification. Creating non-subjects, non-people who exist outside the law and who can therefore be treated any way the government likes. I mean, we don't need trials and evidence for them, because they're the bad guys. If they have their rights violated or they die, well, you shouldn't care about that because...
You know, it's really interesting, Aileron, because somebody not that I know, but I associate with, basically came out and said to me that they have Asperger's, or Asperger's, however it is pronounced, and they said it to me, and I was like, oh yeah? I mean, I didn't say that, but I do find it interesting. And obviously you don't want to like invalidate it, but it's like, none of my business. Maybe they were diagnosed a long time ago, and see, that's what you got to think. But, you know, it's very problematic now.
Because they were never really alive in a way that mattered. In fact, if you do care about what happens to them, then that's suspicious. You're not going to sympathize with the bad guys, are you? If you've been watching
no empathy for anybody
the news lately, you might be wondering, the people of Gaza keep being killed, but Western governments aren't listening. Is that maybe an example of abjectification? And according to Butler, the answer is yes. They are a long-time supporter of Palestinian rights and have often used their position as a public Jewish academic to call on the Israeli government to meet their obligations under international human rights law. Butler says abjectification is a tool of government in the 21st century that we need to watch out for. When the powers that be say a certain group of people are inherently dangerous, whether they're Muslims or Palestinians or trans people, that's them trying to use performative speech to make that group of people impossible to listen to. We become not subjects, but abjects. A problem to be managed against our will in the name of a public good that does not recognize us as part of the public. And I'm not drawing a moral equivalence between those three groups, I'm just highlighting this technique of government, making you aware of it, because you never know when the powers that be might decide to use it on you.
Yeah.
First they came for the blah, 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 that quote. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing about autism. You don't necessarily have to learn more about it from advocates if you don't want to. Even if you are autistic. For real. You get to decide. You get to decide how to live your life. Should you act with empathy towards people around you? If someone around you asks for an accommodation and you don't particularly understand it, like if you have a relationship with that person, you owe that person to attempt to learn to have some understanding. So maybe then you absolutely go and, you know, but you don't have to sit down and educate yourself on everything before even going out and engaging in the world. You just don't have to do that. And you don't have to do it for everybody. And you don't have to understand everything. You just don't. You don't. I do think that you owe it to most people to try and be a good-ish person. Right? Whatever that means to you. It's good to want to learn. But you're also allowed to just like not sometimes, guys. Also, we have reached the midway point of this video. If you are enjoying my content this evening and you felt like subbing or donating, you have a little break in which to do so right now. Also, no one can. That's totally fine too. I'm just giving you a little break. If you like my philosophy chats and you felt like supporting my stream tonight, I would like that because I would like to continue streaming on Twitch and not other platforms. Dear God, because I don't want to swap. This is an intermission. It's like, the hills are alive.
It's a full-blown house deposit, so...
I understand nothing.
Same. But also, thank you so much for validating intermission. You won 49 months in a row. Slay. Thank you so, so much. That is a very nice imaginary thumbs up. Overwhelming amount of ass. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Your username gave me cause for concern for a good portion of the stream. I will be very real about that, but seems you've been fine. Kick streams when? Oh my God, never. All I Want for Christmas. I can't believe, Percy, you're starting this All I Want for Christmas thing now. I'm just going to make it very expensive for Christmas in July, and then you don't get it until December, obviously. Okay, so I'm glad you enjoyed your time. Mariah Carey when? No, shush. We're not having this conversation. It is.
We're bringing down the bourgeoisie, woo.
Supporting your move to kick.
Shh, oh my God. You're fired. I don't know who that was, but you're fired. Lol. Lamo, thank you for the $50. I am extremely grateful. So, pre-orders? No. You can't pre-order Mariah Carey, chat. No, you cannot. Watch me. I'm not writing down who I owe fucking Mariah Carey to. Remember, in December it doubles every time. First Mariah Carey is $20, second Mariah Carey is $40, third Mariah Carey is $80, and it doubles on. Last year's peak alert for Mariah Carey, someone paid $600 and something for All I Want for Christmas Is You for like, I don't even know, the 8th time that stream or something. I'm not sure, but it was fucked. I really did run out of new ways to sing that godforsaken song. I don't know how to do math, Famis. I love that you think I know how to do math, but I don't know how to do math, so I can't remember. No, Excalibur, you can't make a deposit. They hate me, Elron. It's not about loving Mariah. And in case you haven't realized, most of the money I make is generally about my entertaining suffering. It's fine. I get it. My entertaining suffering reflects a duality with which, you all suffer in your lives, makes me specifically relatable. All right, we continue now with the philosophy. We continue. Thank you, Anon, for the $50, and you won. Thank you so much for the 49 months.
You're right about that. Politics in the future gets weird.
How do you mean weird?
Let's talk about J.K. Rowling.
Oh, why? Oh, I don't wanna. It's just why.
We come at last to Butler's new book, Who's Afraid of Gender?
Who's afraid of little old me? Well, you should be.
In recent years, scholars have been studying the rise of the global anti-gender movement. A network of people including far-right political actors, religious fundamentalists, and a lot of people who are neither. Sometimes it's a literal network of politicians and activists working together behind the scenes, but sometimes it's more of a loose association. They oppose women's rights, especially abortion, LGBTQ rights, and they strongly oppose trans people. There is a part of the movement that emerged from radical feminism, and that part tends to get a lot of attention, especially here on YouTube. Here's 3 great videos if you're interested. But the movement as a whole is mainly men and supports policies that would harm the vast majority of women. Women play an important role in selling it and helping it appear benign because protecting women is always good PR, but they aren't the core. The core is the fight against gender ideology. But there's not much agreement on what that actually means. In Eastern Europe, they say that gender ideology is spread by the UN and the EU. But in Italy, they say it's spread by African migrants.
What?
In Latin America, gender ideology means feminism. But in the UK, they say it's against feminism.
No.
In Florida, they say it's gay. In the UK, they say it's homophobic. They say that gender ideology is the new conversion therapy, but some anti-gender organizations are in favor of conversion therapy. Gender ideology is spread by woke students with blue hair and safe spaces, but it's also being pushed on innocent students by wicked professors. Children must not be indoctrinated into gender ideology, and so the government must make sure children believe the things it says about gender. All of this is deeply confusing. The Oxford English Dictionary defines gender ideology as... Although gender ideology is a vague term, there are recurring themes in how it is used. One such theme is the idea that gender is in some way unnatural or artificial or fake, a contested belief, unlike biological sex and family values, which
I have been tricking you with my gender this whole time. You know, the way I dress, occasionally the way I do my hair. If I wear lipstick on any given day, do you know, I don't wear that for me, I wear that to trick you. I do. That's what I think about every day. How do I trick my chat? Most of the time I'm thinking lipstick. I might try it tomorrow again. So, tomorrow, when I'm wearing lipstick, you have to be like, oh, she's trying to trick us.
Definitely are natural. Another theme is that gender ideologues, whoever they are powerful, commanding your obedience.
As much as true.
But also very sneaky.
Also true. Everybody says I'm sneaky. I'm a little sneaky snake.
Capturing institutions behind the scenes.
Insidious.
And the sneakiness is important because it allows the movement to claim gender ideologues are doing all sorts of nefarious things that they have no evidence for. But the reason they have no evidence is because they're so gosh darn sneaky.
Aha!
Self-victimization.
That was, you know, I got a lot of like sneaky cred from my time as a spy and an art thief. So, you know, I'm using my history as a spy and an art thief now for gender ideology. Hee
plays a huge role here. Another reason there's no evidence is because ordinary people are being bullied into silence by the woke genderists.
No, not the ordinary.
Sometimes this verges into outright conspiracy theory. There are people in my country, people with serious political and media careers, who've claimed that our civil service and healthcare are secretly being run by the trans deep state, which, frankly, I wish that were true. The final theme is the danger that gender ideology
You won, lol. Perfect. They're like halfway there, just the wrong way round.
apparently poses. Whatever it is, it's a threat to women who are erased and to men who are made weak and helpless. To families and to children in particular who are confused or preyed upon. It's a threat to the nation because you see, gender makes us weak to communism or capitalism or Vladimir Putin or Western influence or Islamic migrants. It's a threat to the existence of humanity.
What I'm hearing is a lot of threats. Everything's a fret. Everybody, we gotta be scared because everything's a threat. Are you scared? If you're not scared, you're doing it wrong. But doing it wrong feels so good. Oh my god, I could go to sleep right here. And that's a threat.
And the authority of God himself. The Vatican has actually claimed that. No exaggeration. Pope Francis compared gender ideology to nuclear weapons. It kind of just means the opposite of how things should be. And the way they should be is whatever you personally want. And that's a very effective strategy because it allows people who previously might not have associated to stand together. The movement features conservative Catholics, men's rights activists, neo-Nazis, New Age types, centrists, liberals, and even some feminists. And it's good at
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever really feel that good about aligning with a Nazi. Do you know what I mean? I know the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I feel like if you're finding yourself on the same side as a literal Nazi, you might need to take a deep, long look into some of the rationalization that you have done to get to that particular viewpoint. Do you know what I mean, Jelly Bean?
Radicalizing them too. Gender ideology seems like such a big threat. It can't be stopped by traditional means. We have to get tough. Much of the blame for starting the anti-gender movement belongs, I'm afraid, to Catholics. Since at least the 1980s, conservative Catholics, both within and without the church, have said that gender ideology threatens the family and God. They use this claim as justification for their extreme authoritarian positions on abortion and queerness, among other things. It was Catholics who first started the conspiracy theory that the U.S.
This is the point in the stream where I tell you all I was raised Catholic, right? Most of you already know that. But also, yeah.
UN are secretly pushing an anti-Christian gender agenda. The Catholic Church has also claimed several times in writing, without evidence, that gender ideology leads to the abuse of children.
Do you know what else leads to the abuse of children that we have full-blown fucking evidence for? The Catholic Church, but hey.
An IMAX-level act of projection that might honestly be funny if it weren't so insulting to the intelligence of every human being on planet Earth. Religion still plays a big role in driving anti-gender sentiment, especially in the Americas and Eastern Europe. In Britain,
I am not even 2 degrees away, not even 1 degree away from people who were personally affected by the sexual abuse of the Catholic Church. Family members of mine still go to church. And honestly, sometimes, not that I understand what God is, and I don't think I have a Catholic understanding of what God is, but occasionally, I feel something. It's not Catholic faith, but I don't know, man. And look, you can say whatever. I went to a very, very fucking old church called St. Magnus Cathedral in Kirkwell. off the coast of Scotland. And I walked into this church. It had been renovated, but this incredibly old church, and I just started crying. The entire experience was so overwhelming. Was the pollen count high? No. No, I had to leave the church because it was so embarrassing. I was like nearly hyperventilating. I was that emotional. So wild. Case, death. That is the death penalty, and I don't even believe in it. How dare you bring up the sad muffin on this day? This very emotional day, and you bring up the sad muffin? Bitch.
Britain, our version is a little more secular, but that's not the case everywhere. It's just we don't go in for Catholicism as much as we used to.
But the funniest thing is I wasn't crying in that church because I was sad. I was crying in that church because something made me feel incredibly overwhelmed. And like maybe it's just churches in general. Maybe it's stained glass window. Maybe it's all the funerals I've been to. I don't fucking know.
But it would be unfair to lay the blame on all Catholics. Evangelicals are getting involved too, and indeed, some ordinary Catholics might be getting scammed. I have to be careful what I say here. I can tell you that religion also plays a role in how the movement is funded. The Piotr Skarga Association, a Polish group who oppose abortion and LGBTQ rights, have raised millions of euros selling rosaries and pictures of saints to Catholics round the world via mail order. And legally, I can't say that's a scam.
Yeah, Captain Sunbeam, I was saying
everyone
the same.
who gives them money knows what they use it for. Maybe when a little French grandma in Toulouse buys a calendar with the Virgin Mary on it, she knows.
I think most of the time, like, I feel these sorts of things around other historical buildings as well. But it was just that one in particular. I've never cried or I've never had any other experience. It was just this very old church in this very specific place. And it wasn't even, like, I don't even know. Like, I've seen far more magnificent churches from the inside. Like, I saw insane ones in Italy. I've been to the Vatican, for God's sake. Like, I have seen shit. But it was just this one specific church. It wasn't even particularly pretty. I didn't even really like the rock that it was made out of that much. But it was also surrounded with a cemetery. And it's on this tiny little island that has 5,000 years of history. The minimum. It's got the oldest recording, like Viking graffiti that you can see. There are these towns that are pre-Viking. There are these towns that are pre-Bronze Age. And it's just, I think you just go there and for some reason you can just sense history. Like you can just feel it. And maybe I'm more sensitive to it because oftentimes in Australia you don't feel it like that. Like it's not, like there are old buildings, but you don't, like they're 200 years old, right? Maximum, not even. Not even, maximum. And like, you know, if you're going to find like indigenous land sites, you're not coming across them necessarily. Like you're coming across historical landmarks in other places.
Knows full well that her money is going to an extreme right-wing organization in Poland who are going to send some of it to anti-abortion groups in Brazil and spend the rest on luxury properties. Grandma probably did her research. And she'd have to, because their adverts don't mention it. and Piotr Skarga's financial documents.
I would
were hidden
love
from
to
the
go
public
there, follow.
Until journalists broke this story in 2020. Speaking of Catholic crimes, though, the narrative is that gender ideology is being pushed on the good people of the world by shadowy elites who are pulling the string.
I wish I was a shadowy elite. I'd be so sexy. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know I would be one of the sexy shadowy elites. And for now, I'm just a girl. Anyway, next time.
And at this point in my reading, I was thinking, well, that sounds a lot like anti-Semitism. And yes, there are some parts of the movement that are explicitly anti-Semitic. For example, neo-Nazis have criticized Judith Butler for being a Jewish lesbian who
course.
invented gender to weaken the West.
Of
But then I
course.
read this. Anti-Gender Politics in the Populist Moment by Polish scholars
Oh, that's interesting because populism is on the rise. So that is very interesting.
Agnieszka Graf and Elżbieta Korolczuk. They say not all anti-genderists are secretly anti-Semitic. The reason they can look similar is because they do similar things. Objectify. Make a certain group of people impossible to listen to.
Though Jews are almost never mentioned in attacks on gender ideology, genderists and especially sexual minorities are consistently Judaized in anti-gender discourse. That is, described in a language strongly reminiscent of conspiratorial anti-Semitism. The link becomes most obvious when Soros and Butler are mentioned, or when the term cultural Marxism, notorious for its anti-Semitic subtext, is employed. Like Jews and anti-Semitic attacks, sexual minorities are presented as engaged in a secretive plot. They are scheming, devious, and powerful. To this end, the term homosexual lobby is often used, and the link between homosexuality and cosmopolitanism or rootlessness is persistently made. Furthermore, LGBT activists are routinely accused of sacrilege. Their very presence is said to contaminate sacred events and spaces, while the rainbow flag is seen as offensive to religious sensibilities and patriotic feelings. Finally, like Jews in pre-World War II Eastern Europe, gays are blamed for provoking violent attacks by making themselves too conspicuous.
We're in the eye of the storm a lot.
Bye, overwhelming.
I mean queer people generally, but sometimes us specifically. Sometimes it feels like being under a big microscope.
Do you remember when we were studying theology at university?
Yeah, just about.
We had this one lecturer who taught us about Genesis. Remember, he said, you are created.
You are a creature. Yeah, I do remember that.
I didn't like that word creature.
Yeah, we belong to us. We decide what we do.
Well, if God does exist, it seems you've got notes.
That's all very interesting, but it doesn't explain why the anti-gender movement just doesn't listen. Remember back at the start when we learned about the school board who turned down $10,000 of free money?
I think most of the time it's because they don't want to. Like, there's a certain set of rules that they're already very comfortable with, and most of the time it's just like, I can't be bothered.
Money? Remember how the same misunderstandings of Butler's work have circulated for decades? Remember the insistence that the law must have a strict definition of women, even though we know that's not true? Remember all those unevidenced conspiracies about the trans deep state and secret UN plots? There's something else, too, that's very interesting. The language that the anti-gender movement uses is very action-y. Threat, infiltration, danger, bullying, silencing, censorship, a comparison to nuclear weapons. It's not just that they're not listening. When they're invited to listen, it seems like that makes them feel as if they're under attack. And Butler has an explanation for this. They say that these people are caught in a phantasm. Phantasm is a technical philosophy term for a particular way of misinterpreting the world by projecting your feelings onto it. Philosopher Michael Nass says that it's a prism that refracts an as-if into an as-so. For example, The presence of a trans person with a penis in a public bathroom makes me feel as if I am under attack becomes I am under attack. People use phantasms to avoid cognitive dissonance in the face of anxiety.
Yeah, CC Warp, I think that's actually a really good take. The idea that you're listening means you're submissive or weak, or that, like, you don't already have a fully formed opinion. Like, it's already an attack on your ego, on your intelligence, if you have to listen to somebody else. I think it's a good take.
For example, literature professor Darren Tenev says we use them to help us confront death. Normally, we don't want to think about our own deaths. It makes us anxious. So when we picture our own funerals and what we would want to happen to our remains, we imagine ourselves as being gone, but also kind of still around. Like, oh, I'd love to be buried somewhere that has a nice view. Well, why? You're not going to be there to enjoy it. By definition, that's a contradictory dream. But the phantasm contains that contradiction and soothes our anxiety. It is as if I will still be there. I will still be there.
What is characteristic of phantasms is that they are placed, and place what could be called the subject of phantasm, on both sides of a border, a boundary, a limit, a frontier. When there is a border, a limitation, the phantasm lets one on the other side, and not only provides a contraband access through the border, but also keeps one on both sides at the same time. There is no logic of the phantasm. The phantasm is phantasm because it allows one to stand on both sides of a border. For example, allowing one to imagine one's own corpse while still being alive.
Like he says, there's no logic to this. It's an exercise in trying to not make sense because you can't handle the conclusions that you would reach if you did. That's why people caught in a phantasm will throw out all kinds of claims that it doesn't really seem like they've thought through or have any evidence for, and when questioned on it, they'll say, "You're attacking me!" because they're trying really hard to not think something. But what exactly? What is the thing that the anti-gender movement doesn't want to think? Well, it'll probably be different for different individuals. J.K. Rowling has been massively radicalized into the movement in the last few years. She's made a lot of very weird and false claims about trans people and gotten very aggressive when challenged. People have speculated about her trauma maybe causing that, but as a woman who's also survived an abusive relationship, that kind of public speculation has always felt a little bit gross to me. I don't want to do armchair psychology on anyone, even though I'm sure plenty of people would love to do some on me. It's just not the philosophy tube way. So maybe we can ask a more general version of this same question. Why are phantasms catching on? And not just about this topic, but all sorts of things. On the previous episode, we talked about 15-minute city conspiracy theories, and there's QAnon and conspiracies about the royal family. Sometimes the way that Zionists talk about Palestinians has a touch of the phantasm about it.
I don't think you have to agree with everything Abby says, because most of the time Abby is attempting to dissect different philosophers herself, right? She presents a compelling argument. That's what a video essay is most of the time. But no, you don't have to agree. Just like you don't have to agree with everything Judith Butler says. Like, these are all thought experiments. These are all topics to consider for the way that we talk to each other and the things that we talk about. And my favorite things about these sorts of videos is that they allow you to think about context that applies to so many other conversations that we have. I know it does for me. You know, and it also allows you to learn relatively complex philosophical terms in a way that is relatively digestible, right? You know, when we're talking about a subject and an object, when we're talking about, you know, some of the other terms that were clarified, like the one on the screen right now, phantasm.
As some Jewish scholars have noted. This is a really big issue, and it would be great if we could sort the whole gender thing out, because we've got a lot of real problems to deal with. We don't have time to be fighting imaginary ones. Oh. Graf and Korolchuk say there really are.
I think this is a really interesting video. I think she right now is ignoring maybe some of the social influences that have resulted in like gender ideology. Like if you want to call it that, like shifts in, you know, there's been 3 different waves of feminism, and there's so much nuanced experience that goes into previous depictions of being a woman, and you know, there's so much nuance that goes into the experience of trans women as well, and the way that trans women are experiencing their lives. And you know, there are things that are glossed over or things that are missed, but like it's certainly interesting. You want me to turn the heater down? My dog just went to sleep on the floor. I think I've made it a bit hot in here. But she is fast asleep, so I guess she doesn't want me to open it because I can't open the door without waking her.
A lot of problems in the world, and a lot of them are systemic. A lot of women really are devalued. A lot of children really are living in an increasingly dangerous and warming world. A lot of people really do rely on their families to protect them from big institutions and economic forces that really will trample every tradition and really do dissolve everything into money. According to them...
I mean, Trump even has a word for it, right? Remember the whole alternative facts discourse that we did during the pandemic? Oh, pain. Fucking pain.
The anti-gender phantasm is an attempt to criticize the effects of capitalism without naming capitalism as the problem. People see the bad results of the system that we have, but they're invested in those same systems, and so the solutions become unthinkable.
Correct.
Their criticisms have to be expressed as a kind of moral criticism. Anti-genderism is the socialism of fools, and the feminism of fools, and the anti-colonialism of fools.
That's an
The
interesting
anti-gender
take.
movement
I like
is so effective in attracting mass support because it is structured and legitimized as a conservative response to the excesses of neoliberalism. A crucial source of anxiety is the rampant individualism of contemporary culture, the erosion of community and growing instability of everyday life. Opponents of gender ideology attribute
The
these trends
Phoenix,
to the influence
lol.
of feminism and the sexual revolution. Anti-genderism conflates gender with those aspects of capitalism that are most frustrating to members of the working and lower middle class, especially to parents and would-be parents: precarity and the crisis of care resulting from unequal distribution of wealth. Instead of naming the problem in economic terms as injustice and exploitation, anti-genderism presents the world of capitalism's winners as degenerate and morally corrupt.
And here's where we tie it all together and bring it back to Judith Butler. When the anti-gender movement say that gender is an ideology and sex is a fixed point, we now understand they aren't making an observation. They're making a demand. When they say that you can't change sex, they mean you shouldn't be allowed to, because that would be dangerous. Not the kind of danger that is proven with evidence, but the kind they want the state to posit and punish. What they want is morally righteous violence that restores an imaginary order because they are anxious about real problems that they cannot or will not think about, and so they can only glimpse those problems through the prism of unreality.
Not
The
unreality.
contradictory character of the phantasm allows it to contain whatever anxiety or fear that the anti-gender ideology wishes to stoke for its own purposes, without having to make any of it cohere. Depending on the anxieties circulating in a particular region, gender can be figured as Marxist or capitalist, tyranny or libertarianism, fascism or totalitarianism, a totalizing force, or an unwanted migrant. It is not that people are unmindful of the contradiction and need to be enlightened. No, the contradiction itself is what works, in effect emancipating people from the task of developing a rational position.
Maybe it's because I'm older, but part of the reason I came back is to tell you life is too short to spend it being miserable.
Actually, that's the point. How come you look younger than me?
Because I'm happier. Joy is youthful. Also, we get a really good skincare routine.
I don't want to think about getting older.
You know, Mum.
I think it's disingenuous to not admit the work there either. I like Abby. I do, but I think that's disingenuous. She looks younger. Yeah, she's got a great skincare routine, but there's no way she hasn't had work done. So, just, yeah. I don't know. I think this is for dramatic purposes. Abso-fucking-lutely it is, but...
Mum's fish pie recipe.
Yeah.
There's this really amazing moment that's going to happen when you're 30. You make that fish pie for a friend who's like 23, and you bring it out, and she says, "You are literally my mother." And that is going to be one of the first times you realize that we're getting older. But it's actually nice, because it's like, we have knowledge that younger people don't. And it's not like a superiority thing. It's that we get to be helpful. We become an auntie. We have little nieces and a nephew, and we help them put on their shoes, and they ask us to tell them about Shakespeare, and
That's really cute.
I wish I could tell you that it's all going to be moments like that. But you're right. Your future has ups and downs, and it's mainly ups. But the politics is a big down.
Does it get better?
Nope.
Let's talk about Brainworms. Brainworms is a 2024 novel by Alison Rumfitt about a woman who discovers that several high-ranking British politicians and journalists are being secretly controlled by a contagious parasite that makes them bigoted. She has to uncover the conspiracy, but nobody will believe her because she's working class and trans and maybe imagining it. I like that the worms are never confirmed to be real. We could read them as hallucinations. That ambiguity forces us to engage only with the metaphor. Brainworms might not be real, but hate is infectious, disgusting, and perverse. One character is a famous author who writes books about teenage witches. There's a scene where she
Absolutely off
infects
key.
someone
Had that
else,
conversation a
coming
bunch
close
of
to her
times, but
victim,
yes, very good
worms
point.
dripping from her open mouth, and she says a line. And in the movie version, this would be the line that reveals a glimpse of her evil plan, right? But instead, she says, "I've seen the future of this country, and it's going to get so much worse." The worms don't make her happy. In fact, they're a kind of contagious misery. Nobody who is infected ever gets better. So, what can we do about all the things that we have learned today? Well, there's actually two questions rolled into one there. The first is, what can we practically do about the political situation that we're all living in? And secondly, can we convince people who are stuck inside phantasms? So first things first, practically speaking, What can we do? Well, if you've been watching this show for any amount of time, you know that I hate telling people what to do or think, but here's some suggestions, maybe? If you're Catholic and you like buying little medals or rosaries or tchotchkes, if you have relatives who do, maybe older relatives who do, you might like to double check where that money is going. If you happen to work in media, then all of this theory could have some practical applications for you. We might like to talk about anti-genderists the same way we talk about anti-vaxxers or climate deniers. For example, Mrs. X says this, which is false. Organization Y claims this, which is pseudoscience. Another thing that you might like to try is using the word cisgender. It was coined in the early 90s. It means not transgender. And the English language anti-gender movement hate it because it implies that trans people and cis people are both worth listening to. It resists objectification by putting us on an even playing field, kind of like using the word straight or heterosexual instead of saying normal. Beyond that, Graf and Kolschuk say we need to appreciate the fact that right-wing populism is criticizing capitalism, albeit in phantasmic terms. They say we should move beyond the old idea that the left are anti-capitalist and the right are always pro-market. Now, some of them are, to be sure, but not all. They say that these days a lot of people on the right are actually criticizing capitalism, even if they don't use that kind of language. And so, sticking to the same old economic policies we've had for the last 40 years is leaving yourself wide open to those far-right extremists. They also say that LGBTQ stuff and gender stuff can't really be separated from normal politics anymore, because that's how a lot of people are engaging with normal politics these days. The anti-gender phantasm isn't the only thing powering the global right, to be sure, but it's big enough that it can't be ignored. Important lessons there for centrists, perhaps. They recommend a strategy called populist feminism, which involves tapping into people's emotions in the moment. An example from the UK might be the group Sisters Uncut, who've been very successful mobilizing a broad coalition against austerity, domestic violence cuts, police violence, prisons, healthcare segregation, arms sales to the Israeli government, and many other things, because they recognize that all those forces disproportionately hurt women, and therefore, women can be brought together to protest against them if given the chance to express our feelings of hurt and righteous anger. There's many ways to be involved in a group like that, from actually taking part in demonstrations to donating money, which again empowers a broad coalition. A broad coalition! A coalition of broads, dames, dime pieces, chicks, dolls, all standing together. Will it work? Well, join me at the end of the 21st century to see humanity's final scores. And now our second question. Can we reach people stuck in phantasms? Is there a cure for brain wounds?
Oh, Vox, I'm about to fall asleep, so I may have to watch it tomorrow. Like, when I tell you, I can barely keep my eyes open right now. I'm not even kidding. I have not been this tired in so long. Like, anybody could see it. I don't think you want chat. If you've just joined my content, I had a really big, really emotional day. I've been awake since 7 a.m. I've done a lot of driving. And I never want to rip anybody off, but I might be ripping you off just like by an hour tonight because, no, but we've got this much. We've got like 4 minutes. I can do this.
Well, to be honest, as somebody who does a lot of public education, I really hate to admit this, but I'm not optimistic that education will work.
Yeah, mood.
Butler says that this movement is not only irrational, but anti-rational. Many of the most prominent people in it proudly do not engage with any of the academic material on gender. At the end of my research journey, I realized the reason they don't listen is because they feel that listening is an act of submission.
Ah, someone said this before.
I can't help it.
And that's
I think
weak.
really
That's
sad.
feminine bitches.
I
And
really don't wanna come
feminine
across as
bitches are
patronising
weak,
or
and we hate them because femininity isn't
giving people
masculinity, and
mercy that they
masculinity is
wouldn't give
good.
me, but
Masculinity
I
is when
think
you
it is really
talk.
sad when people refuse their own complexity, when they refuse to become the person that they might become if they just listened. Indeed, there could be no greater enemy for Philosophy Tube than the anti-gender phantasm. This show is about compassion and reason and sharing knowledge between equals. It's born out of my belief that thinking and research and words and writing, that they matter. And I'm trans, like... This is my final boss fight.
Informed public debate becomes impossible when some parties refuse to read the material under dispute. It is nearly impossible to breach this epistemic divide with good arguments because of the fear that reading will introduce confusion into the reader's mind or bring her into direct contact with the devil.
It's been bringing me into direct contact with something. Hasn't been the devil. It's mostly been fairy porn.
They're skeptical of the Academy for fear that intellectual debates may well confuse them about the values they hold.
Yeah.
Their refusal to care much
Hey, I kind of pre-watched this. I said this before.
about consistency, to base their criticisms on a reading of the text, their way of snatching phrases and making them into lightning rods, however, are all finally a refusal to think critically.
Some individual people do get better. When we first come out, there's going to be people who do not take it well. But in time, they see that we are happier, and for most of them, that's enough.
I'm scared of changing. No offense.
Yeah, well, you will change. But you keep the good bits.
Are you still making Philosophy Tube in the future? What does the audience say?
I brought them with me.
It's giving
Hi.
Hamilton. It's giving
nice to see you all.
Hamilton. You fucking theatre nerd, Abby. I see you. Breaking the fourth wall like that. How dare. It's very neoliberal of you to invoke Hamilton.
I love you.
I love you too.
Aww.
I'd like to end by telling you my hopes for the future. I hope that I will grow old. I hope that when I am old, I will still be cooking the way that my mum taught me, and that I will have the wisdom of my dad. I hope that my nieces and my nephew grow up into good and happy people. I hope that I will see younger people have opportunities that I didn't, and I hope that I won't be too jealous. I hope that I will be acting and making art for the rest of my life. I hope that this is not the cleverest or the most compassionate that I will ever be, but that I will continue to change. Because the only people who don't change are the dead.
I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all. It was compelling. It was compelling. It was interesting. It was interesting. Chat, I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed myself. until about the last 8 minutes, in which at a couple of points I was like, holy moly, fight, the queen, fight. You got this. I was tearing up at the ending until you compared it to Hamilton and ruined it. I did that because I've already cried enough today and I couldn't cry anymore. So I had to take myself out of it and ruin it with a joke, because if I didn't, I cried for probably an hour today when my grandma gave me that bag. So, yeah, nah. No. Like, I cried for a full-blown hour, so I couldn't do any more crying. I know. Oh my gosh, look at my beautiful fluffy dog. Oh, she's so cute, and her little paws are so small. They're so small. Oh, and her legs are so fluffy, and her little paws are so small. Oh, she's so cute. Anyway, let me find someone to raid.
I love people who roll on it.
No, you can't, Tofu. We're double rating. What have you done? Stop it. I'm rating too. We're going to find someone to raid as well. I had a big day. Had an emotional day. Yeah, we can go lucid. Big day, emotional day. I literally can't even keep my eyes open. Usually I would stream for at least another hour. Sometimes 2. But not today. I can't keep my eyes open. Is Lucid even on? Guys, I'm too early for Lucid. No, you take care of yourself. Big day, sleepy times. But I will be back tomorrow. Wait, Lucid is on. Oh, okay, fuckers. It's on the starting soon screen. Give me a break. But yes, we can raid into Lucid. I love... No, Tofu just raided me, Dithron. Nice to see you were paying attention, you fuckface. Sorry, that was really aggressive. I'm very tired. I'm sorry. I'm very tired. I'm in my masculine right now, okay? Sorry, I'm joking. Look, there's Tofu right there. That's why we're rating Lucid. Also, I love when people recommend Lucid to me like we haven't been subscribed to each other since the beginning of time. Lucid and I knew each other before we were both political streamers. Bitches. That's how old I am. We played I met Lucid when Lucid was playing Stardew fucking Valley. Yeah.
This is a full-blown house deposit. So...
Wow. 52 months and this is the kind of abuse I get?
Yeah.
Enrage.
You're welcome. Enjoy it. It's a gift. You're so special. Sorry, that was aggressive though. Anyway, off to Lucid we go. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody, after I've had a nap. Goodbye.